Chapter 2084. One day. Suyu had been trapped in the iron cage for 2 years. In the past 2 years, he had been constantly deducing all kinds of ways to escape. Day and night, he had finally found a method that was barely feasible. He was just waiting for the opportunity to come and fight for it. Crack. Suddenly, the iron cage next door opened. Suyu's pupils shrank as he looked through the crack. The white-robed Taoist master appeared in front of Zhang Yuanling's cage after 2 years. In order to collect your innate talents, I've personally refined 2 treasure-refining furnaces. I'll use you as a test subject first. The white-robed Taoist master took out a triangular awl that was burning with a fiery glow. With a crooked finger, Zhang Yuanling uncontrollably floated out of the cage and came before the white-robed Taoist. The white-robed Taoist master flicked his finger and shot the triangular awl 3 inches away from Zhang Yuanling's chest. The black soul shadow in his body seemed to be pulled out by something and forcibly separated from Zhang Yuanling's chest. Ah! Suddenly, Zhang Yuanling foamed at the mouth as if he was being tortured by 1,000 cuts. His body trembled violently as he let out a painful roar. Then, due to the extreme pain, he directly fainted. Zhang Yuanling was a half-step Daolord, and his endurance was extraordinary. However, he'd actually fainted from the pain, and the pain he suffered was obvious. The white-robed Taoist master remained unmoved while he was unconscious, and he successfully sucked the black shadow into the triangular cone. She glanced sideways and stared at Suyu with a faint smile. "It's your turn." Suyu's heart thumped fiercely, and his blood boiled rapidly. The white-clothed woman took light steps and arrived in front of Suyu's iron cage. As her eyes flickered, the cage was opened. Before Suyu could react, his body was confined by a powerful Tao will, and he couldn't move at all. What I'm looking forward to the most is still your superb talent." The white-robed Taoist master's eyes were filled with anticipation. A supreme-grade innate talent is something that can only be discovered by luck. If it is nurtured, it might even be able to become a saint-grade innate talent that can fight against a Taoist master. The white-robed Tao master flicked his finger, and the triangular cone shot toward Suyu's chest. Suyu immediately sensed a powerful, formless energy penetrating his body and searching it. But after searching for a while, he returned empty-handed. The look of anticipation on the white-robed Taoist master's face faded slightly, and a strange look appeared in his eyes as he asked, "What's wrong with you?" Her treasure-refining furnace was personally refined by her, so there wouldn't be any problems. The problem was Suyu. She crooked her finger and drew out Suyu's talent. The pattern of the Tao-destroying pestle appeared clearly. "Strange, there's nothing wrong with it." The white-robed Daolord was puzzled. Suddenly, the Tao-destruction pestle attacked without the slightest sign, and it transformed into an extremely sharp ray of golden light that smashed against the Daolord in white. However, she was a Daolord after all. When she was about to be struck, she teleported away. He shouted coldly, "You actually activated your talent on your own. Trying to plot against me? Ridiculous." As a Tao master, how could he be plotted against by a mere 4-crown emperor? If that was the case, he would be laughing his head off. However, just as his figure was about to teleport, Suyu suddenly shouted, "Time and space freeze." He unleashed the laws of time and space at the same time, freezing the white-robed Taoist master's figure for an instant. Normally, one would be frozen for a breath of time, but against a Daolord, it was less than 1/10 of a breath of time. However, all of this had been carefully calculated by Suyu. 1/10 of a breath was more than enough. Bang! The Tao Annihilation pestle struck forcefully against the white-clothed Daolord, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. The white-clothed Daolord was shocked and angry. However, a black shadow flashed in front of her. Taking advantage of the moment when she was injured, Suyu had broken free from her restraints and teleported over at an unimaginable speed. He was holding a blood-red hammer in his hand, and he smashed it against her head. The hammer was well prepared and accurate. Unfortunately, her abdomen was still pinned by the Tao Annihilation Pestle, so she had no time to teleport. She only had time to release the unique Tao will of the Tao Lord to destroy Su Yu completely. Su Yu's face changed dramatically. He gritted his teeth and activated the 10-5 Crown Emperor Peak talismans on his body. Compared to the Tao will of the Tao Lord, the power of the talismans was like the brilliance of a firefly compared to the brilliance of the moon. Even 10 talismans couldn't block it. However, the power of the talismans was instantly annihilated by the Tao will. Su Yu's hair stood on end, and he had a premonition of extreme danger. This scene was also within his calculations. Without hesitation, he took out the Azura sword and held it in front of him. Crack! The Azura sword, which had been used for a long time, couldn't block the destruction of the Tao will. However, there was a slight weakening of the Tao will. After all, the Azura sword was a top-notch Emperor-level divine weapon, second only to the Tao artifact Fairy Embryo. Its destruction was also within his calculations. At the moment when it broke, Su Yu took out the earth fault furnace and held it in front of his chest. Buzz! Buzz! After the earth fault furnace roared 3 times, it finally couldn't resist the terrible Tao will and broke into countless pieces. At this time, the Tao will had been reduced by 50%, and there was only half left. Not daring to hesitate, Su Yu took out the heavenly orchid silver bamboo fruit and held it in front of his chest. The Tao will attacked, and the heavenly orchid silver bamboo fruit immediately swallowed it like a whale, absorbing 40% of the Tao will in one go. The fruit was instantly full, and it was knocked away by the last 10% of the Tao will. Not to mention 10% of the Tao will, even a trace of it was enough to destroy Su Yu tens of thousands of times. At the last moment, he took out the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. Boom! The terrible Tao will hit the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron, causing it to tremble violently. The 6 crystallized dragons flew away, roaring in the air. The layer of Tao will couldn't leave any marks on the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. The terrible Tao will bounced the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron onto Su Yu, instantly destroying it. His body and soul were both destroyed. Revival from the dead. However, Su Yu was really well prepared. He had predicted this scene, and he had used revival from the dead in advance. Everything seemed to take a long time, but it actually happened in a split second. The white-robed Tao Master still maintained the posture of releasing the Tao will, as if nothing had happened. However, in fact, Su Yu had already experienced several life-and-death situations, and he had even died in the last one. She only had time to open her eyes wide, and Su Yu had successfully dissolved the wisp of Tao will. The red hammer in his hand struck her head without any resistance. Bang! With a loud sound, the white-robed Tao Master felt an excruciating pain in her soul, and countless memories were instantly shattered and disrupted. However, her soul was far stronger than an ordinary Tao Master's, and it was extremely powerful. The hammer strike should have wiped out all of her memories, but she managed to resist it. She hugged her head, which was in great pain, and let out a shrill roar as she released the Tao will once again. Su Yu's heart beat wildly, as if he had missed a beat. The scene just now was the limit of his deductions for 2 years, and it was also the limit of what he could handle. It was impossible for him to resist this wisp of Tao will. Revival from the dead could only be used once a day, and it was impossible for him to come back to life. At the last moment, Su Yu clenched his teeth and shouted, "Let's go all out!" With a loud roar, just as she was about to release the Tao will, Su Yu teleported forward, raised the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron, and smashed it onto her head. With another shrill scream, the white-robed Tao Master was smashed onto the ground by the cauldron. Su Yu's hands did not stop, and he immediately followed up with another blow with his left hand, which was holding the red hammer. As the white-robed Tao Master continued to scream, the cauldron smashed down once again. Su Yu's hands were like falling meteors, and he smashed her more than 10 times in succession. Finally, he heard the white-robed Tao master sobbing, "Father, please stop hitting me. I won't dare to do it again. I won't dare to do it again." Suyu was stunned, and he stopped only after he was sure that she was not pretending. Chapter 2085. Father? Was she beaten silly? Or was it because of the power of the demon-sealing heart hammer? It should be the latter. Her soul energy was too strong. The demon-sealing heart hammer had absorbed a lot of scattered memories, which made her memory blurry and incomplete. Now, it should be because of her confused memory that she was still a child and was being beaten by her father. Suyu was embarrassed when he recalled what he had done just now. He didn't have any tender feelings for the fairer sex. However, Suyu was also exhausted. He put away the divine nine-dragon cauldron and the demon-sealing heart hammer and took a deep breath. She hadn't even shown a trace of the Path Master's power. Suyu had died once and had tried his best to mess up her memory. Not only had he lost the Azura sword, which he had used for a long time, but he had also destroyed the Earth Fault Furnace. The loss was disastrous. Sob sob. "Father, I was wrong." Then, he heard the sound of incessant crying. He looked sideways and saw the white-robed Path Master hiding against the wall. She was hugging her knees and crying. She looked very pitiful. She must have been exposed to such violence for a long time when she was young. It must have left an indelible impression on her soul. That was why she reacted now. Suyu thought for a while and said, "Come here." The white-robed Path Master was scared. She didn't dare to resist and walked over. Her whole body was trembling with fear. Unexpectedly, Suyu just touched her head and asked, "Does it hurt?" The white-robed Path Master sniffled and the fear on her face eased. She shook her head and said, "It doesn't hurt. Be obedient and you won't be beaten, understand?" Suyu said. The white-robed Path Master knew that her father's anger had dissipated. Her fear disappeared and was replaced by respect. She nodded vigorously and said, "I will listen to you, father." "Then take out your Tao artifacts, Tao artifact fairy embryos, and all kinds of offensive talismans," Suyu said shamelessly. "Okay." The white-robed Path Master took out a transparent coin. It was her natal Tao artifact, the Soul Plate. The Tao she had mastered was the Tao of Souls. The Soul Plate was a Tao artifact condensed from her Tao will. It had extremely powerful soul attack. A Path Master of the same level couldn't defend against the Soul Plate. Suyu couldn't help but feel lucky. Fortunately, he was decisive and didn't give her a chance to use the Soul Plate. He couldn't use it, only the white-robed Taoist master could. However, she still had a Tao artifact immortal embryo that looked exactly the same as the soul disc. It was a failed Tao artifact, and its power was unable to compete with the real Soul Plate. Because of the failure, even its use had changed. Currently, it could only nourish a person's soul. Suyu's soul was still intact, so he didn't need it for the time being. However, he couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't use it for other purposes. Therefore, he put it away without hesitation. After that, there were all sorts of talismans. There were many types of talismans, but without exception, all of them were talismans at the level of Tao Masters. It was impossible to activate them with just the power of the Great Desolation. Only the Tao Master's Tao will could do it. Of course, Suyu would never let them off. He couldn't use it now, but that didn't mean he couldn't use it in the future. Seeing that she was still searching for things, Suyu said, "Forget it, I will keep all your things safe for you, and I will give them to you when you need them. How about that?" He didn't know if it was because he had been in contact with the tree goddess and Mo Shaochai for a long time, but his lower limit had also become unfathomable. "Oh, all right." The white-robed Taoist master put away everything and condensed them into a grain of sand at his fingertip. All of her belongings were sealed in it. Suyu carefully stored the grain of sand, as it was the entire wealth of a living Taoist. Its value was so high that it couldn't be measured by money. "While you're at it, I should also fill up the things here." Su Yu flicked his fingers, and the Tao-destroying pestle came out of his body. The white-robed Taoist master extended his finger and touched the Tao-destroying pestle. All of a sudden, the Tao-destroying pestle was filled with energy again. This object was second only to the attack of a half-step Taoist master. It was a powerful trump card. "Father, where are you taking Ku'er?" the white-robed Taoist master asked. It turned out that her nickname was Ku'er. "I'm taking you to the demon realm, but I seem to be lost. Do you know how to get there?" "Yes, I do. We are going to the demon realm now." Su Yu's heart thumped. "Do you know where we are?" Ku'er shook her head and said confusedly, "I seem to know, but I forgot. Let me think about it carefully." She racked her brains, and a pained look appeared on her face. "I seem to remember something, but it's very scattered." "Forget it, don't think about it," Su Yu said immediately. "If you remember something bad, it will be troublesome." Ku'er asked curiously, "What bad thing?" "Ahem, some unbearable memories of the past." Su Yu felt slightly guilty, so he gave up on pursuing this matter. If she remembered what had happened today, then everything would be over. "Now let's leave this place, okay?" The longer she stayed here, the more chaotic memories she might recall. So, it would be better to take her to an unfamiliar place, such as the camp. "Father, if you want to go up there, what should we do?" Su Yu pointed at the barrier above their heads. Ku'er said, "It's easy." She pulled Su Yu's hand and teleported into a mysterious room, which had countless spell formations revolving at the same time. Su Yu scanned the place and confirmed that it was a core control room. There were tens of thousands of spell formations, and they were probably the ones controlling the cage that imprisoned the purple evil creature. Ku'er crooked her finger, and one of the spell formations flew to her feet. They jumped onto it and it teleported them away. When they reappeared, Su Yu was already in the surface world, and his eyes were filled with dense fog. "I'm finally out." Su Yu let out a long sigh as he breathed in the fresh air of the outside world. He looked around to confirm the direction of the camp. After being imprisoned for 2 years, Huang Fu Liang and Mo Shaochai must have been worried sick. Right at that moment, the white fog suddenly sped up. Su Yu had seen it before. It was a natural change in the fog every time Luoho stopped at a stop. Looking at the time, it should be the Demon Path realm. "We should hurry back," Su Yu said. If he was late, it would be difficult to meet up with the two of them. Boom. However, right at that moment, an aura that made Su Yu shudder suddenly descended. No, it wasn't just one aura. There were 3 of them. "Destroy the experimental site and capture Meng Ku-er alive." A mighty voice came from the darkness. The terrifying auras of the 3 Path Masters descended upon Luoho. The fog that had covered it for countless years was forcibly dispersed by their auras. Su Yu and Meng Ku-er were immediately exposed. "Meng Ku-er has been discovered, capture her." 3 destructive auras descended rapidly. Su Yu's blood was boiling, and he felt as if Mount Tai was pressing down on him. That scene was simply frightening. "Father, you go first, the enemy is very strong." Meng Ku-er had lost her memory, but her battle instincts were still there. She pointed a finger at Su Yu, and a powerful Tao aura enveloped Su Yu. He flew out of Luoho and into the rapidly changing space turbulence. Su Yu flew backward, and Meng Ku-er's figure immediately disappeared from his eyes. All that was left were 4 tyrannical waves that could destroy a galaxy. He had no time to think, and immediately became wary of the space turbulence around him. He saw streaks of pitch-black space turbulence pass by him. Even with the space law, it was difficult to resist the omnipresent turbulence. It was the Tao aura on the surface of his body that completely offset the turbulence. His figure continued to fall, falling for 10 days and 10 nights before he finally fell out of the space turbulence brought about by Luoho's flight and into nothingness. The terrifying power of nothingness immediately eroded him. However, the power of nothingness could not shake the Tao aura at all. He walked freely in the nothingness, and after a long time, he found a mass of purple light appearing at the end of his line of sight. That should be the demon realm, right? Looking at the demon realm, Su Yu felt relieved. The promise that he had made for almost 100 years could finally be fulfilled. He had arrived at the demon realm, and his promise with the nine-tailed white fox had finally been fulfilled. However, just as Su Yu was about to set off, he suddenly heard the sound of space turbulence coming from the sky above him. He saw a warship speeding in his direction. It was heading straight for Su Yu. The words, Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce, were printed on the warship. The person in front of me, surrender now. A powerful voice came from the warship. Looking at the bow, Su Yu saw 7 half-path masters standing side by side. They emitted a powerful aura and locked onto Su Yu from afar. Su Yu's face changed slightly. If it was just a half-path master, he could use the Tao Destruction Pestle and the Soul Plate to deal with him. However, there were 7 of them, and he did not even have to think about it. Without thinking, Su Yu took out a talisman. After activating it, an enormous steel warship appeared from it. It was the mecha civilization from that mysterious space. He jumped onto the warship, activated it, and immediately traveled rapidly in the vast nothingness. So fast. The half-path masters of the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce were all surprised. The warship of the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce was known as the best in the nothingness. However, it was not even half as fast as that strange warship. They chased after it with all their might. After half a month, they completely lost sight of the warship. This lad's final destination is still the demon realm. We can speculate that his target is the demon realm. Contact the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce in the demon realm immediately. We must investigate this person, the leading half-path master said in a deep voice. The Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce had ambushed Luoho and planned to capture Meng Ku-er alive. However, Meng Ku-er's combat power was astonishing. She fought against 3 path masters alone. Not only was she not captured, but she also injured one of the path masters and escaped successfully. Her whereabouts were unknown. However, the 3 path masters noticed that Meng Ku-er had sent away an unknown person before the battle. This person might be related to Meng Ku-er in countless ways, so the path masters had sent them to capture him. Su Yu had finally shaken off the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce after traveling for several months. Looking at the demon realm in front of him, he furrowed his brows. With the enormous power of the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce, there must be a Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce in the demon realm. Even if there was no open one, there must be a black market. Su Yu had witnessed the power of the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce's intelligence network several times. It could only be described as pervasive. If he reached the demon realm, it would be even more dangerous. However, after so many years of traveling, he had finally reached this step. How could he give up now? Chapter 2086. Right at this moment, a leisurely and beautiful sound of nature sounded out from within the 9 Jade Spiritual Pearl. Below is the territory of the White Chalk Demon Clan, one of the 10 great ferocious clans of the demon realm. As a human, you'd better not enter. It was the 9-tailed demonic fox. Su Yu's eyes flickered as he asked, "Where do you think is suitable?" "The west," the 9-tailed demonic fox said. Su Yu nodded his head. He summoned his enormous jade wings, which had a circumference of 100,000 feet. With a gentle flap, he instantly left the place. In the next moment, he had crossed nearly 1/10,000th of the demon realm's territory. Even a half-path master would find it difficult to cross such a distance in an instant. Taking a deep breath, Su Yu said, "How is it? Are you satisfied?" The 9-tailed white fox laughed. "You're really cautious. I told you to go west, but you went east. Are you afraid I'll harm you?" Su Yu smiled. "The demon realm is your territory after all. I'd better be careful. There are 2 promises between us. Fulfill them one by one." Su Yu found a quiet mountaintop and sat down with his legs crossed. The nine-tailed demonic fox had said that as soon as Suyu arrived in the demon realm, she would tell him how to open the Blood Lotus Demon's relic. As for handing over the 9-jade spiritual pearl to Suyu, it was a matter of bringing his skeleton back to the demon clan's royal family. Now, he could fulfill the first promise. We've known each other for so long, yet you still don't trust me. The nine-tailed demonic fox giggled. Suyu did not say a word. He stared at the 9-jade spiritual pearl quietly. She had no choice but to manifest a hazy soul. Her posture was as elegant as ever. She said, "Take out that box." Suyu obeyed and took out the dark red box. Now that he thought of himself as powerful, he still felt a sense of trepidation when faced with this box. It was as if there was a living path master staring at him coldly from within the box. The Blood Lotus Dao demon was the 8th-generation demon emperor in the history of the demon race. He was also the most terrifying demon emperor in history. Once, with his strength alone, he intimidated the 10 universal civilizations and was almost above the Ecliptic Temple. At that time, the demon world was not a 7-star civilization, but it surpassed it. That was the monster realm's most flourishing era, an unprecedented glory comparable to the dragon realm. It's a pity that good times don't last long. The demon realm is too powerful, threatening the rule of the Ecliptic Palace. The nearby 10 great Ecliptic Palaces joined forces to suppress the demon realm, mobilizing more than 30 Dao lords and countless emperors. And in the demon realm, there is only one Dao master, the demon emperor. In the end, the demon realm suffered a great defeat, but the price paid by the Ecliptic Temple was extremely tragic. Out of 30 supreme beings, 18 perished, and only 12 survived. Countless emperors died, causing a calamitous loss to the 10 great Ecliptic temples. Even now, many Ecliptic temples still haven't recovered, such as the Archyang Mirror Ecliptic Temple you went to. Suyu had already studied the nearby star map. The Archfrost Mirror's Ecliptic Palace was just one of the many Ecliptic Palaces in the void. The area covered by the Ecliptic Temple was known as the Civilization System. When he heard about the great battle between the Demon Realm and the 10 Ecliptic Palaces, he couldn't help but be deeply shocked. How powerful was the Demon Realm at that time? What about the Demon Emperor? The graceful face of the white 9-tailed fox turned gloomy. As you can see, he died in the Tao Tai's stomach and eventually turned to dust. He was beheaded. No. It was the Blood Lotus Dao demon who was too powerful. They couldn't kill him even if they joined forces. They could only imprison him and use time to wear him down. Suyu was shocked when he heard this. What kind of existence could a person who couldn't even be killed by the joint forces of the supreme beings? Before he was captured, the Blood Lotus Dao demon spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood essence. One of them turned into the demon clan's inherited doctrine artifact, the heaven-sealing imprint Earth Mirror. It ensured that the strong men of the Path Master level could no longer enter the Azura world. That was how the Azura world was prevented from being massacred by the Ecliptic Temple. The second mouthful turned into a Path Master, continuing his bloodline. The third mouthful turned into a relic, and its whereabouts are unknown. Suyu's eyes were filled with shock. Not only did the first mouthful of blood turn into a doctrine artifact, but the second mouthful turned into a Path Master? Just how powerful was the Blood Lotus Dao demon himself? Then, he suddenly realized how shocking the relic in his hands was. The third mouthful of blood essence was definitely equivalent to, or even greater than, the previous 2 mouthfuls of blood essence. So, how do I open this box? Suyu was excited. The white 9-tailed fox said, I have a Blood Lotus Dao demon technique that can be used to open it. With a flick of her finger, she shot a speck of light into the space between Suyu's brows. In his memory, there was indeed an additional unfamiliar technique. You can open it now. I'm curious as to what's inside. Suyu nodded, but he suddenly lifted his head and stared into the eyes of the white 9-tailed fox. Even though the white nine-tailed fox had concealed it very well, Suyu still caught a hint of unusual anticipation. She really hoped that Suyu could open the dark red box. There was something very wrong with this woman. That technique. Something was not right. Why don't you open it? The white nine-tailed fox asked calmly. Her expression was as elegant as ever, and there was nothing unusual about her. But Suyu was confident that his eyes had not misjudged her. He smiled faintly, put away the dark red box and said, "Let's open it another day." He looked into the eyes of the white nine-tailed fox. This time, he did not reveal anything unusual. "Up to you. Anyway, I've already given you the technique." After saying this, she prepared to return. Suyu's eyes shone. "Aren't you going to tell me where the Demon Clan royal family is?" According to the agreement, her bones were to be sent to the Demon Clan royal family. "In the west," the white nine-tailed fox said faintly, then returned to the nine-jade spiritual pearl with a smile. Suyu's eyes narrowed. He had long felt that this goddess was mysterious and untrustworthy. Now, it seemed that he really had to be on his guard. Suyu prepared to fly to the west in a flash. But just as he was about to leave, a few auras of early-stage 5-crown divine warriors approached. Looking over, he saw 3 young women with threatening demonic energy. Behind them were several groups of mid-stage 5-crown divine warriors. The 3 of them had extraordinary statuses. They were all dressed in purple robes made of a strange material, and each had a precious crown on their head. On their backs, they each had a large bow. Seeing Suyu here from afar, the 3 of them looked surprised. This hunting zone even has weak living creatures like humans. Aren't they worried that we hunters will encounter danger? The one in the middle was a woman with almond-shaped eyes. Her lips were sharp like a bird's beak, and she said unhappily, "Haha, who cares? Anyway, there will be rewards for shooting him. As long as he is prey, it's fine." The woman in red next to her was also a sharp-beaked living creature. She took out a red bow and shot an arrow at Suyu. Suyu frowned. What was going on? Although the people of the demon realm were fierce and aggressive, to shoot someone without saying a word, wasn't that a little too disrespectful of human life? Without thinking, Suyu dodged with the tip of his toes. He said indifferently, "Do the 3 of you have a grudge against us?" This prey is not bad. His reaction speed is very fast. Interesting. No wonder he was released into the hunting zone. It looks like hunting him will take some effort. The woman in red became more and more interested. She released the cultivation of a 5-crown divine warrior, drew her bow to its fullest extent, and shot an arrow at Suyu. Even if Suyu was made of clay, he would still be enraged after being shot with arrows. Chapter 2087. Suyu raised his hand and the Tiani bow appeared in his palm. After using the bow and arrow for a long time, he had already reached the point where he was very familiar with it. Without even looking at the arrow, he casually released an arrow. A jet-black arrow light pierced through the sky, instantly splitting the arrow shot by the other party in the middle. The arrow didn't stop and pierced through the other party's shoulder blade. Blood splattered as the woman in red's shoulder was pierced through. She was shocked. There's actually a powerful prey? Not only was she not afraid, but she was also full of battle intent. She said excitedly, "Brothers, we might have encountered the beast king of the hunting grounds." Hearing this, the 2 male beasts grinned and unleashed their beastly auras. Not only were they not intimidated, but their battle intent was even higher. As expected of the warlike demon race. If it was any other race, they would have been cautious. Once we capture the Beast King, we will have the qualifications to meet the Demon Prince. Let's attack together. It turned out that the 3 of them were siblings. All of them pulled back their bows and shot an arrow at Suyu. Suyu's eyes shone with a cold light. "I've already left my men behind, so why are you so aggressive?" Suyu's gaze became cold, and he gave up on the longsword. Instead, he took out a strange longsword that was entirely shaped like a dragon. Since he could no longer use the Shurasek sword, he could only use the Royal Dragon Sword. Sinkhole. The sword itself contained the Dragon Clan's divine technique, and when combined with Su Yu's demonic sword technique, its power was naturally earth-shattering. As soon as the sword style was unleashed, the weather changed. Tens of thousands of black sword shadows soared into the sky, blotting out the sun. The phenomenon was extremely shocking. The 3 long arrows, which were approaching Su Yu, were all destroyed when they were 10,000 feet away from him. Only then did the 3 demon clans' faces reveal traces of fear. In the distance, the mid-stage 5 Crown Emperor experts in charge of protecting them had a drastic change in expression. They all moved closer, protecting the 3 monster race members behind them. 3 young masters stepped back. Right at this moment, the sky full of sword shadows condensed into a giant dragon, roaring as it swooped down. The 5 Crown Emperors in the mid-stage turned pale with fright, hurriedly operating the law chains, sealing them into a law sphere, enveloping everyone, including the 3 young masters. Crack! The defenses of the 6 great 5 Crown Emperors couldn't even withstand a single blow from the iron cage, instantly shattering. The 6 people inside were all swept by the remnant sword shadows. Screams rang out one after another. They were either badly mutilated or badly mutilated. The 3 young masters were still fine, being protected. The 6 mid-stage 5 Crown Emperors' injuries were slightly more serious. The Beast King is so powerful? The 3 young lords gasped in shock. He isn't a Beast King. A true Beast King wouldn't appear in a small hunting ground like ours. Moreover, if we really did encounter a Beast King, we wouldn't be able to survive either. The 6 mid-stage 5 Crown Emperors' physiques were extremely powerful. His heavily injured body was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. His speed was much faster than other creatures at the same level, second only to Su Yu when he used the life law. The physique of the demon clan was truly incomparably tough. My apologies, we misunderstood. I wonder if your distinguished self entered the hunting grounds? The middle stage 5 Crown Emperor in the lead cupped his fist. Although Su Yu had displayed astonishing power, he was not afraid. Instead, his eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Every demon race was like this. The saying that the demon race loved to fight fiercely was indeed true. If my strength was inferior to yours, I'm afraid you wouldn't have asked this question, right? Su Yu stared at them coldly. He had just arrived in the demon realm, and he was already being treated as prey. He didn't know whether to laugh or be angry. Of course. If you don't have strength, your death will be in vain. Only with strength can you have the right to speak with us on equal terms. The one who spoke was a red-clothed demon. The injury on her shoulder had already recovered, and she spoke without fear. Su Yu glanced at her. There's no need to speak, just don't block the way. As he spoke, he prepared to activate his wings and fly towards the demon clan royal family. Wait! The red-clothed female demon said. I see that you are a human, right? Have you obtained a pass to the demon realm? If not, you will be caught no matter where you go. Su Yu frowned slightly. He hadn't heard about this from the Tianqian Path Master's memory or the Yun ancestor's description. When did this rule come into being? Recently, the red-robed demon said. Ever since an unknown being stole the 10 forbidden immortal embryos of the Imperial family issued an order that all living beings in the demon realm who are not part of the demon race must go to the local official office to verify their identity and issue a pass. Otherwise, they may be captured by the patrolling experts of the demon realm at any time. I think you trespassed on the hunting ground without permission. You don't know about this, do you? Su Yu was slightly surprised. The stolen fairy embryos was the demon forbidden heart hammer that the Yun ancestor had taken away, right? It was with him now. If I wanted to meet the demon clan royal family, how difficult would it be? Su Yu stopped and asked. The red-clothed demon laughed involuntarily. That depends on who you want to meet. To meet the son of the Demon Emperor, you only need to capture a Beast King alive. If you want to meet the Demon Emperor, don't even think about it. The Demon Emperor hasn't seen outsiders for too long. People like you, who don't even have a pass, would be recognized by the formation inside the Demon Emperor's 7 Knights' divine capital and killed on the spot. Su Yu frowned slightly. The Demon Forbidden Heart Hammer had attracted such trouble? It really wasn't easy to meet the Demon Emperor. Where is the local official office? Su Yu asked. Hearing that, the few of them chuckled. The red-clothed demon said with a smile, "It seems far away, but it's right before your eyes." You are the person in charge of the local officials? To be precise, the Tianyin Continent Master is the father of the 3 of us. We are half in charge of the local officials. It would be easy for us to help you get a pass. The red-clothed demon had a faint smile on her face. Su Yu understood what she meant. Indifferently, he said, "You hope that if I do something for you, you will find a way to get a pass for me? You're quite smart, human," the red-clothed demon said. Su Yu muttered, "Tell me what you want to do first. If I don't think it's worth it, I will look for other official offices to get a pass." Haha, is that so? Then are you sure that other official offices are willing to omit the 3 processes of searching your memory, checking your space storage device, and wearing a tracking device? These 3 processes? Su Yu didn't want to expose any of them. Especially the storage space. If they found out about the nursery in the 9 Jade Spiritual Pearl, the consequences would be dire. The 9-tailed white fox had said that it was a legacy treasure of the demon race. How would the demon race react if they found out? He stared at the red-clothed demon in front of him again. Indifferently, he said, "State your request." They must have taken a fancy to his strength. Sure enough, the red-clothed demon smiled. "It's very simple. Follow us and search for the Beast King. Of course, you don't have to worry. We are only searching. The killing will be handled by the strong ones." It sounded feasible. Of course, it only sounded plausible. Let's find a place to talk in detail. All right, come to the Tianyin Continent's Wang Mansion. The group of people regrouped and returned to a group of meteorites suspended in midair. There were about 1 million of them, and each one was equivalent to the size of a 5-star civilization. And this was just the Tianyin Continent. One could imagine how prosperous the entire demon realm was. Chapter 2088. The meteorite in the middle was enormous. Su Yu followed them into the heavenly Silver Continent's king's mansion. Su Yu and the 3 demons in red talked in secret. After a while, they reached an agreement. From their conversation, Su Yu learned that the demon in red was called Lai Hongzhen, and the 2 male demons were his disciples, Lai Yuan and Lai Bo. The place where they met was the heavenly Silver Continent's hunting ground. It was open once every 100 years for 20 years. They happened to be hunting there, and Su Yu barged in. The prey was very special. They were not wild beasts, but criminals who had committed the most heinous crimes by the demon realm. They were all exiled and became prey. If they could survive the 20 years of hunting, they would receive a corresponding reduction in their sentence. Of course, most of them would die at the hands of the hunters, because hunting was a top event that involved the entire demon realm. Powerful hunters could receive rewards from the demon realm royal family. A light reward would be a Dao coin, and a heavy one would be admitted to the 7 Knights' divine capital and become a member of the demon realm royal family's divine guard. The divine guard was the highest honor pursued by all the demons in the demon realm. It meant that they had been close to the demon emperor and had contributed to the demon emperor. It was an honor that nothing could exchange for. However, it was extremely difficult to become a divine guard. Every 100 years, no more than 20 people were recruited. It could be said that every divine guard was an existence that people looked up to. For example, in the Heavenly Silver Continent, only the Heavenly Silver Continent's master had received a divine guard medal. Therefore, the people of the demon realm were passionate about hunting criminals, which made all criminals feel hopeless. especially the strongest criminal, the Beast King. He was almost everyone's target. Only by killing the Beast King would one be qualified to meet the Demon Prince and become a candidate under the Demon Prince. The candidates would compete with each other, and the 10 strongest would be chosen to become the Immortal Guard. With the abilities of Lai Hongjin and his 2 brothers, it was impossible for them to kill the Beast King. Even so, their enthusiasm did not diminish. Su Yu agreed with them to find the Beast King. In return, they would secretly give Su Yu a legal pass, but he would not have to go through the 3 slave treatment procedures. After the discussion, Lai Hongjin arranged for Su Yu to stay temporarily, and left with his 2 brothers. "Sister, why are you so polite to a human? Although his abilities are good, the heavenly Silver Continent does not lack strong people, right?" That was the truth. If they wanted experts, there were plenty of mid-stage 5 Crown Emperors among the people, and even late-stage 5 Crown Emperors who were willing to help them. They couldn't understand their sister's behavior. Lai Hongjin sighed. "Take it as repayment for shooting him by mistake. Give him a chance to obtain the entry pass." She didn't lack manpower, and the reason why she had asked for Su Yu's help was because she wanted to help him secretly. Even though she was the young master of the Tianyin continent, she could not immediately give Su Yu a pass. Su Yu had to accompany her to participate in some public activities and be trusted by others. Only then would she not need to go through the 3 procedures to give him a pass. "Just remember to call him when we're on the move. You don't have to worry about him for the rest of the time." Lai Yuan and Lai Bo suddenly understood. Lai Yuan's expression was cold and solemn. He shook his head helplessly. "Sis, sometimes you are too soft-hearted. You're not like a demon. He's just a human. You can just shoot him, but you still want to compensate him. No one would believe you even if you told them." "I feel the same way as well. Perhaps that human might even think that you're the one begging him for help, big sis. He doesn't even know that you're helping him from the shadows." To be honest, Su Yu really did know. When the 2 of them came to an agreement, Su Yu had used his listening technique to prevent any accidents from happening, so he knew what Lai Hongjin was thinking. He sighed inwardly. "When I first met him, I thought he was a bad person. I didn't expect him to be someone who looks cold on the outside, but is actually a just person." Time passed in the blink of an eye. Su Yu seemed to have been forgotten, and no one came to disturb him. On this day, the Tianyin Continent Prefecture welcomed an important guest. A gorgeously dressed, charming, and graceful cat-eared young lady was visiting the Tianyin Continent Prefecture under the protection of several peak 5 Crown Emperors. The servants who were guarding the gate were only slightly courteous before letting her in. It was as if she was a regular here. "Where is Xiao Honghong?" the cat-eared young lady asked the butler. The butler did not know whether to laugh or cry. Perhaps only this playmate of the eldest mistress would address the cold and heartless eldest mistress like that? "She's training in the backyard." "All right, you don't have to inform him. I'll go look for him myself." The cat-eared young lady dismissed the servants beside her and skipped to the backyard of the palace. She recognized Lai Hongjin's yard and skipped all the way there. All of a sudden, when he passed by Su Yu's courtyard, he noticed a small purple Kylin sleeping lazily under the sun. Wow, the purple void Kylin that was exterminated during the era of the Blood Lotus Dao Demon. Am I seeing things? The cat-eared young lady stopped to observe. She even took out an ancient illustrated handbook that emitted a vast aura and put on a pair of thick glasses to read. When she flipped to a certain page, her eyes lit up. It's really him. Closing the illustrated handbook, the cat-eared young lady skipped inside and took out a piece of candy with a smile. Lin Lin, do you want it? Come with me, I still have a lot of candies. Su Yu was cultivating his sword techniques in seclusion, and the small Kylin was bored to death, so it was basking in the sun in the yard. Suddenly, she heard someone calling out Lin Lin in a mushy voice. She was about to fall asleep when she was startled awake. Looking at the candy that she had extended to it, then looking at the smiling face, the small Kylan rolled its eyes. Does she think I'm a newborn divine beast? Does she want to abduct me with candy? The Kylan stood up and raised its butt at her to express its disdain. Then, it swaggered back into the house. The cat-eared young lady giggled. Wow, so smart. I want it. As she spoke, she barged into the house. As soon as she entered the house, she was met with a pair of cold eyes. How could Su-yu not notice that someone had barged in from outside? He put the small Kylan into the 9-jade spiritual pearl and asked calmly, Are you from the heavenly silver continent's king's mansion? The cat-eared young lady rolled her eyes and nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes. I'm Lai Hongzhen's little sister. So, do you have something to say to me? The cat-eared young lady glanced at Su-yu's arm and waved her hand with a smile. Of course I have something to say. My sister asked me to give you something. As she spoke, she took out a small, delicate box. Open it and take a look. Su-yu took it and opened it. Unexpectedly, the moment the box was opened, a large amount of white fog gushed out from it. Breathing in a whiff of it was enough to make one dizzy. The cat-eared young lady suddenly launched an attack. She took out a wooden stick that was as thick as an arm and smashed it at Su-yu's head. With a bang, Su-yu was knocked unconscious. She kicked Su-yu with her foot to make sure that he didn't move. Then, she put away the wooden stick, clapped her hands, and giggled. No one has ever been able to withstand my primeval chaos stick. As she spoke, she immediately rushed to Su-yu's side and looked for the 9-jade spiritual pearl on his arm. She was drooling. Waha, little Lin-Lin, I'm coming. The book had more than 10,000 subscriptions, and she planned to publish a few chapters tomorrow to celebrate. Chapter 2089. Who would have thought that the moment she threw herself at him, her head would fall into a palm? Su-yu, who was supposed to be in a coma, calmly reached out his left hand and held the cat-eared girl's petite head. The cat-eared girl was stunned. She looked at Su-yu, dumbfounded, not understanding why he was awake. Her primordial chaos stick was not an ordinary object. It was a top-grade true Emperor divine weapon, second only to the Doctrine artifact Fairy Embryo. Even a martial artist at the peak of the 5-crown martial emperors would fall unconscious if hit. Did you have a good time hitting me? Su-yu's eyes were full of sparks. He did not know what the stick was, but it almost knocked him out. Fortunately, there were many soul path fragments in his soul, which were indestructible. Otherwise, he would have been knocked out on the spot. Even so, his head was still aching. This seemingly cute little girl was really cruel. The cat-eared girl tried to pry Su-yu's hand away with her two small hands to free her head, but Su-yu's hand was like iron, and she could not pry it open. She had no choice but to give up resisting. She crossed her two small hands in front of her chest and said coldly, Mortal, do you know who I am? Su-yu did not say a word, but flicked her forehead hard. The cat-eared girl suddenly cried out in pain, and her fiendish hands kept flailing. Ah! How dare you hit me? Pop! Another finger flicked her forehead, and the cat-eared girl grimaced in pain. Mortal, if you dare to flick me twice, I will kill you, Pop! Another finger flicked her forehead. This time, it was a continuous flick of 9 fingers, which made her forehead red. She was in so much pain that she burst into tears. She whimpered, Stop, I was wrong. Well, now do you know how to introduce yourself? With tears in her eyes, she rubbed her forehead and said, My name is Mao Susu. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have joked with you. Joked? Su-yu smiled faintly. If it were not for his special soul, all his treasures would have been plundered by this woman, and even the little Kylan would not have been able to escape. Now she was joking? Su-yu looked around, and a touch of space power condensed in his palm. He reached into the space beside her ear, and took out the big stick. Why don't we also play a joke? Su-yu waved the big stick and said calmly. Mao Susu was so scared that her face turned pale. Don't, let's play something else, okay? Of course. Su Yu casually searched through his space storage device and found a large number of dangerous toys that could be used to prank people. Flying needles that could make people faint with a stab, whips that could make people feel pain with a whip, and drugs that could make people dance with just a sniff. Tell me, which one do you want? Or both? Mao Susu finally cried and said, "Sorry, big brother, I was wrong, I shouldn't have been thinking about your little Qilin." Su Yu swung the cudgel in a circle. Mao Susu's eyeballs followed the cudgel and kept moving around, afraid that it would hit her. "Just admit your mistake and it's over?" "I apologize. Oh, I've been short of firewood for cooking recently. This primordial chaos cudgel looks quite durable." "Take it. What if you change your mind? I'll write the contract." Thus, she obediently wrote down a vow that she would not go back on her word. Only then did Su Yu let her go. Unexpectedly, as soon as he let her go, she slipped away like a loach. As she walked away, she turned around and glared at him while crying. "We're not done." "Humph, not done." Su Yu smiled. He caressed the cudgel with space energy, erasing all the blood in it, and then added his own blood without hesitation. He tried to activate it with the power of desolation. A casual wave of the cudgel caused pressure in the air, which caused great damage to the soul. After careful inspection, he discovered that there were 2 layers of seals in the cudgel. They sealed 90% of the cudgel's power. Mao Susu's soul energy was not strong, and she could only use the remaining 10% of the cudgel's power. Even so, a casual blow to a peak 5 crown divine warrior would cause them to lose a layer of skin, even if they did not die. If the remaining 2 layers of seals were opened, the full power of the cudgel would be unleashed. How shocking would that be? However, because the power of those seals was too strong, ordinary people did not dare to open them. Otherwise, before the enemy was hurt, they would be hurt by the soul attack in the cudgel. But Su Yu's soul had the soul path fragment, so he was not afraid at all. He could completely dig out the full power of the cudgel. In terms of grade, the primeval chaos cudgel is of a higher grade than the Azura sword, and it was tailor-made for me. Su Yu swung it around. In another quiet courtyard, Mao Susu was crying outside the door. "Hong Hong, come out quickly. Someone is bullying me." Lai Hongjin was training. Hearing the voice, she frowned. "Doesn't this woman find it annoying?" She stopped training, opened the door, and looked at Mao Susu coldly. "Did my people steal your things again? Or did you drop something and someone stole it? Or did someone hit you when you were unprepared?" Mao Susu wiped her tears. "It was someone who stole my primeval chaos cudgel and flicked my forehead. Look, it's still red." She moved her forehead closer. Unexpectedly, Lai Hongjin's reaction was mediocre. "Let me count for you. This is the 8th time you've been robbed in my Tianjin prefecture, the 10th time you've dropped something, and the 18th time you've been hit. And every time, it was your prank, causing chaos in my Tianjin prefecture. Why didn't your father, the king of the Luo Yun prefecture, lock you up in the Fu Luo Yao region?" It turned out that every time Mao Susu came to the Tianjin prefecture, she would start with a prank, causing chaos in the entire prefecture. Only then would she clap her hands and laugh. She was a person who wished for the whole world to be in chaos. Now she was doing it again. Even Lai Hongjin was immune to it. No, it's real this time," Mao Susu said anxiously. Lai Hongjin shook her head. She had heard this sentence countless times. "I can't be bothered with you. Is there something you need from me? If there's nothing else, go back. I'm about to set off. There's news that the Beast King has appeared in the 3rd hunting ground in the northwest." Hunting the Beast King? That sounds fun. I want to go too. "Don't," Lai Hongjin hurriedly said. "I don't dare to bring you there. Either stay in my prefecture obediently, or scram back to the Luo Yun continent. Don't follow me. I don't want to die young." Mao Susu pouted unhappily. "Hong Hong, your words hurt my heart, all right?" Lai Hongjin said sourly. "Hurting your heart is better than hurting my life. 5 years ago, she had brought Mao Susu to participate in a hunt. They had infiltrated an island where preys gathered, preparing to secretly kill the leader, who knew that Mao Susu, for some reason, had actually shouted loudly, attracting all the preys on the island. Fortunately, they had brought enough guards, and had managed to escape by a hair's breadth. Since then, she really didn't dare to bring Mao Susu out again. With her temper that wished for the whole world to be in chaos, bringing her to hunt the Beast King again was no different from courting death. Chapter 2090. Oh, Hong Hong doesn't want me anymore. Susu is so sad. Mao Susu rubbed her eyes as she peeked at Lai Hongzhen's expression. Lai Hongzhen was so angry that she laughed. She couldn't be bothered with Mao Susu. She walked into the courtyard with large strides and said lightly, "Inform the hunters to get ready. We will set off in 6 hours, and inform the silver-haired human as well." Then she went back into the house and slammed the door shut, not letting Mao Susu follow her in. Humph! How stingy! Mao Susu wrinkled her nose and stomped her feet angrily. Then, she rolled her eyes and muttered, "Silver-haired human? Could he be the bastard who snatched my primeval staff?" After thinking for a while, she came up with a plan and ran back to find Suyu. "Hey, human, I don't think the primeval staff alone is enough to express my apologies to you." Suyu had been informed that he was about to set off and was packing his things. He couldn't help but smile. "Oh? What do you want to give me?" Mao Susu took out a small porcelain white cat. It looked charmingly naive, as if it was alive. "This is my life-saving treasure. When my life is threatened, it can take the blow in place of its owner. As long as it doesn't exceed the level of a half-step Dowlord, it will be effective." That was a good thing. Although he had the law of life, it had its limitations. It wasn't as good as this kind of treasure that could transfer attack. After checking that the treasure didn't have any limbs, Suyu stroked her head. "Thank you." Before long, the people from the heavenly silver continent set off. There were 22 of them, including Suyu. Apart from Lai Hongzhen and her siblings, there were 6 bodyguards and 3 top-notch emperors at the peak of the 5-crown emperor's realm. Other than that, there were martial artists like Suyu, whose cultivation was between the late stage of the 4-crown emperor's realm and the early stage of the 5-crown emperor's realm. The role of the 3 peak emperors was to deal with the Beast Kings. The rest of them were to look for the Beast Kings. "Now, I'll divide you into groups." Lai Yuan walked over and said to Suyu and the others, "The 3 of you will follow me, the 3 of you will follow my 3rd brother, and the 3 of you will follow my sister." As Lai Yuan was dividing the group, he realized that Suyu was the only one left. He thought for a while and said casually, "You can act alone." In any case, he did not expect Suyu to be of any help. Moreover, he was quite powerful, so he could easily protect himself. Suyu felt helpless. He didn't want to acknowledge a favor for no reason. However, he did not refute it. After the distribution, the group immediately set off for the 3rd hunting ground. Unlike last time when the hunting ground was a forest, this time it was the bottom of the sea. The prey exiled from the Weeping Soul Sea are all sea demons. They are proficient in water laws, and some of them are even proficient in soul attacks. You must be careful. Lai Hongzhen gave a simple reminder before leading a mid-dawn 5-crown sovereign and 3 martial practitioners in charge of searching into the Weeping Soul Sea. Lai Yuan and Lai Bo led their people away. In the end, Suyu was the only one left. He had no choice but to choose another direction to enter the bottom of the sea. The corals at the bottom of the sea were crisscrossed, and there were countless fish swimming about. Coupled with the blurred vision, it would be difficult to discover the prey hidden at the bottom of the sea if one did not have special abilities. It was fortunate that Suyu possessed the transparent eyes, and all obstructions at the bottom of the sea were transparent to him. All of a sudden, Suyu discovered a shark man with metal gears all over his body hidden in a seemingly flat white sand. It lurked there, motionless, as if waiting for the hunter to approach. Isn't it said that all prey are afraid of their prey? Why is there a prey that dares to ambush the hunter? Su Yu sensed something unusual. The Sharkman's cultivation was quite good, and he was at the early stage of the 5-crown sovereign. He was paying close attention to Su Yu's every move. Su Yu's gaze shifted slightly, and he walked past the Sharkman, pretending not to know anything. In an instant, the Sharkman launched an attack. He held a rotating gear in each of his hands, and he slashed it at Su Yu's legs. He shouted excitedly, "Ha ha, score!" However, the gears seemed to be slicing through the air, and they cut into a phantom. "How many points did you get?" A faint voice came from the Sharkman's back. The Sharkman's face changed, but his ferocity disappeared. His body curled into a ball, and he spun upwards. Su Yu smiled, took out the primeval chaos cudgel, and waved it casually. Pound! Amidst the loud noise, the Sharkman did not even groan. His eyes rolled back, and he floated motionlessly like a dead fish. Quite handy. It was his first time using it, and it was exceptionally convenient. After a brief examination, he found that there was a forcefully imprisoned gem between the Sharkman's brows. Su Yu tapped on it, and a brief message appeared immediately. The gear shark sneaked up on Master Baiyu Jing and stole his life-saving elixir. He was later captured and sentenced to death for betraying his master, and was sent to the 3rd hunting ground. Anyone who kills him will be rewarded with 10 hunter stars, and anyone who captures him alive will be rewarded with 20 points. The hunter star was a reward that hunters could exchange with the local authorities after killing their prey. The most basic use of the hunter star was to exchange it for doctrine coins to meet daily need. If accumulated, it could be exchanged for all kinds of powerful legacies, demonic techniques, and even top-notch true Emperor divine weapons. There was even a chance to become the person in charge of a place with the help of the hunter star. It was a good thing, and Su Yu would not let it go. He searched the Sharkman's memory first, and then threw him into an empty cavern world. What a surprise! The prey of the 3rd hunting ground have united to resist the one-sided slaughter of the hunters. To unite all kinds of scattered prey into a handful of loose sand, there was no need to guess that it had to be the work of the extremely powerful Beast King. In the Sharkman's memory, anyone who killed a hunter could go to a place to exchange for training items based on the cultivation of the slain hunter. For prey who had nothing, even the lowest level of training items were precious. Therefore, they naturally spared no effort. Exchange points. Haha, there should be a lot of prey there. Su Yu disappeared in a flash. According to the gear shark's memory, he appeared on an ancient ship that had sunk to the bottom of the sea. Through the transparent eye, he could clearly see an octopus with a cultivation of stage 5 middle star stage hiding in the depths of the ship. A sneaky swordfish man came up to the octopus with a head in his hands. The head wasn't from Lai Hongzhen's people, but from other hunters. It seemed that Lai Hongzhen wasn't the only one who knew about the Beast King's presence. The swordfish man handed the head to him and received a bottle of elixir that could restore his primeval power. He then left happily to continue hunting. Su Yu's heart stirred. He performed the nirvana of the evil dragon and transformed into a half-dragon, half-human creature. If one didn't sense the demonic energy carefully, he would look no different from a demon. He swaggered into the bottom of the ship and came up to the octopus. It sized Su Yu up with its single pitch-black eye and asked, "Where is the head?" Chapter 2091. Su Yu grinned. "I smashed it to pieces, but I brought back its spiritual pet." The octopus thought for a moment. If the battle was too intense, it would be difficult to ensure that the opponent's corpse was intact. Take out its pet and search its memory to confirm if you really killed a hunter. Okay. Su Yu took out the little Kylan. The octopus stretched out 2 tentacles and grabbed the little Kylan in its palm, preparing to examine it. Suddenly, the little Kylan turned into a void and escaped. Su Yu roared, pulled out the primeval staff, and swung it at the octopus's head. Bang! The octopus's attack was extremely fast, and it blocked the primeval staff. Its single eye looked at him coldly. "You really are not a demon, you are a hunter. Chi chi chi." The other tentacles struck at Su Yu like thunder. A mid-stage 5-crown king was indeed difficult to kill. However, the little Kylan, which had turned into a void, smirked, and suddenly spat out the power of nothingness at the octopus that was close at hand. The octopus's reaction was quick, and it immediately used its tentacles to block in front of it. However, how could the power of nothingness be blocked by the body? The tentacle was immediately melted by the power of nothingness. The octopus roared in pain and screamed in horror. "How can you manipulate nothingness?" Su Yu's eyes flashed, and he took the opportunity to open the first seal of the primeval staff, smashing it down. The powerful soul shock wave made even Su Yu feel a little uncomfortable, let alone the octopus. It screamed, and its tentacles held its head and struggled, but its movements became weaker and weaker, and it finally fell into a coma. Su Yu breathed a sigh of relief. If he was alone, it would really take a lot of effort to cause a huge commotion. With the help of the little Kylan, it was undoubtedly much easier. With a hook of his finger, the octopus was stuffed into the cave. "Hey! A bunch of stupid demons, there is no sense of accomplishment defeating them," the little Kylan said arrogantly. Su Yu kicked it away. "Stop talking nonsense, clean up the scene. Aren't you going to find other prey?" "Why do I need to find prey in the stronghold? Didn't they all deliver themselves to me?" Su Yu poked its little head, and there was only one word in his eyes: stupid. Little Qilin was suddenly enlightened. "Oh, you want to? Wow, that sounds interesting." Thus, the two of them rearranged the scene. At this moment, a cuttlefish wrapped a captured demon and came to the bottom of the boat. As soon as he came in, he saw a half-dragon, half-human sitting there. He couldn't help but be puzzled. Strange, this stronghold should be under the responsibility of the octopus. "Who are you?" A few powerful warriors just broke through, and the octopus went after them. "I'm temporarily taking his place." Su Yu took out several bottles of low-grade elixirs and placed them on the table in front of him. He then asked, "Are these the people you captured?" Very good. If it's alive, the reward will be doubled." Although the cuttlefish man was bewildered, when he saw the hunter's head behind Su Yu, he was not so suspicious anymore. Double, I like it." The cuttlefish walked over and was about to take away the materials with its tentacles. All of a sudden, just as he approached, Su Yu, who was sitting upright and still, suddenly launched an attack. Su Yu picked up a big stick beside him and smashed it at him. The poor cuttlefish let down its guard and was knocked unconscious by the stick before it could understand what was going on. With a curl of his finger, he kept it in the space cavern. The captured demon was dumbfounded and stammered, "Is this an internal conflict?" The little Kylan stood up and scolded, "Cut the crap, stand aside obediently, and don't talk." Even the cuttlefish was taken care of with a stick. How could the hunter dare to resist? He stood aside, not daring to breathe. Soon after, another conger eel demon came with a living person in its mouth to exchange for the reward. What it received was the same unceremonious stick strike. This happened a few times, and the few survivors gradually came to their senses. "What the hell, you can't be a hunter, right?" Su Yu glanced at them, too lazy to explain. The little Kylan said fiercely, "Hey, as a captive, you must have the professional ethics of a captive. Ask less, talk less." After confirming their suspicions, the few survivors were so shocked that they almost bit their tongues off. They had seen many impressive hunters, but it was the first time they had seen someone like Su Yu, who had disguised himself as one of the prey and waited for the prey to come to him. If one came to them, he would knock them out, and if two came to them, he would knock them out. This was the first time they had encountered someone like Su Yu. 5 days had passed, and the narrow bottom of the ship was filled with captives. In Su Yu's cavern world, he had captured no less than 100 prey. Each prey had an average of 20 hunter stars, and almost 200 hunter stars could be exchanged for 200,000 Dao coins, which was a considerable sum of money. On this day, a wounded sealman came, excitedly holding a half-dead hunter in his mouth. Seeing him, Su Yu's face changed drastically. Lai Yuan. Su Yu was shocked. Where did you catch him? Haha, I picked him up. The sealman was grinning from ear to ear. You don't know how lucky I am. I was besieged by a group of people, but the Beast King suddenly appeared and killed them all. This one was beaten half to death by the aftermath of the Beast King, and I picked him up, haha. The group of captives looked at him, their eyes filled with sympathy. Looks like your luck has come to an end. Where is he? Take me there. Su Yu stood up abruptly. He could only give up the stronghold. Although Lai Yuan and Lai Bo were not much, Lai Hongzhen was not bad. Moreover, he still had to rely on her to obtain a pass that did not need to be tied down. No matter what, he could not let her die just like that. You! The sealman was stunned, and suddenly realized something was wrong. Who are you? Slap. Su Yu hit him on the head with the stick, knocking him out, and then searched his memory. Let's go. From his memory, Su Yu saw that Lai Hongzhen and the others were in an extremely dangerous situation. The little Kailan stepped on the sealman's face and sneered. Really, I asked you to lead the way, and now you're happy after being hit with a stick? As it spoke, it picked him up with its mouth and brought him into the cavern world. The rest of the captives followed Su Yu to the place where the Beast King had appeared. In less than an hour, Su Yu arrived at the place of origin. He could smell the stench of blood from afar. From afar, there was a thick scarlet color, which showed how intense the battle had been. Using his transparent eye to scan inside, Su Yu was secretly shocked. There was a huge footprint on the ground, 100 feet in diameter and 10 feet deep. The people that Lai Yuan had brought, including a middle-stage 5-crown divine warrior, had all been trampled into meat paste. Judging from the scene, they did not even have the strength to resist that one kick. Is that the Beast King? The hunters who had chased after them all felt their scalps go numb. The power of that kick is no longer that of the ordinary Beast King, right? It's almost a half-step path master. They were terrified, and all of them wanted to retreat. Bang! All of a sudden, the bottom of the sea shook violently, as if something enormous was walking on the seabed. Su Yu stared into the distance, his pupils constricting slightly. Chapter 2092. A gigantic demon the size of a mountain was moving quickly. He could cross millions of miles with a single step. Every time his foot landed on the ground, it was like an earthquake shaking the surroundings. A Beast King on the verge of becoming a half-step Dao Lord? Su Yu's eyes narrowed slightly. Just the 3-peak 5-crown emperors that Lai Hongzhen had brought were not enough to deal with such a Beast King. The giant Beast King in front of them seemed to have detected the aura of Su Yu and the others, and it took a step forward. When they heard the violent footsteps, it was already dark above their heads. They could only see a huge mountain range that spanned across their heads. At the bottom of the mountain range, chains of law scattered all over the sky. All those who were swept by the chains of laws, regardless of whether they were early-stage or mid-stage 5-crown emperors, were instantly annihilated. Dozens of hunters didn't even have the chance to escape. They were all killed. Su Yu's heart was suddenly alarmed. He stared at the sweeping chain of rules, and a colorful chain of the 6 paths of rules gushed out from his back and surrounded his body. Ding ding bang bang, the densely packed sounds of collision resounded in his ears. Fortunately, he managed to resist it in the end. The huge wings on his back spread out, and the exaggerated jade wings that were tens of thousands of feet long spread out. With a light flap, a boundless gale was raised, and the huge mountain range was shaken. Then, only the gradually weakening whirlwind was left. What a powerful pair of wings! The huge demon suddenly flashed, and its body dissipated, transforming into a strange demon that was as tall as a normal human. Its entire body was made of incomparably hard stones, and it was filled with powerful explosive power. Dozens of jet-black chains coiled around his body, giving off an abnormally powerful and explosive feeling. His eyes were like two dazzling gemstones, and he looked in the direction where Su Yu had fled. He said in a booming voice, "I want this winged doctrine artifact fairy embryo." As he spoke, his body merged into the ground, and a bolt of lightning flashed deep underground. When he reappeared, Su Yu was panting heavily. The consumption of the wings was enormous. Almost 90% of the Great Desolation Force had been used up. He had no choice but to use pills to replenish the Great Desolation Force. "If I use the Tao Destruction Pestle and the Demon Heart Hammer, I should have a chance to kill him. However, it's not worth using it on him," Su Yu said. The Tao Extinguishing Pestle could only be used once, and it was very difficult to restore it again, so it should not be wasted. He took out a compass with Lai Hongjin and the others' markings on it. After ascertaining the direction, Su Yu quickly flew over. As he approached, he discovered that there was an unfamiliar young man accompanying Lai Hongjin. He had long white feathers, wavy golden hair, fair skin, and handsome features. Even in the eyes of humans, he was quite handsome. Lai Hongjin, who had a cold expression on his face, revealed a rare hint of a smile as he accompanied the young man as they walked, until Su Yu's ripples suddenly appeared. Lai Hongjin glanced over, the smile on his face vanishing as he asked curiously, "There's news of the Beast King?" "Yes." Su Yu nodded his head deeply. He walked over and took out Lai Yuan, who was severely injured and half dead. He was injured by the Beast King. "I suggest that we stop the hunt for the Beast King immediately." After witnessing the terror of a Beast King, Su Yu knew that Lai Hongjin and the others would be seeking their own deaths if they stayed behind. However, it was not convenient for him to say that he had seen a Beast King. Otherwise, how he had escaped from the hands of a Beast King would be an inexplicable problem. Lai Hongjin walked over with a solemn expression. After checking on Lai Yuan's injuries, his gaze softened slightly. "Fortunately, he's not dead. His injuries can be healed." She raised her head and asked, "Where did you find the Beast King?" Seeing that there was no fighting spirit in her eyes, Su Yu said helplessly, 3 trillion miles to the northwest, whether it's still there or not is unknown." Lai Hongjin took a deep look at Su Yu, looking away without a word. Her expression was one of displeasure. Su Yu did not understand her expression. "Sister Zhen, there's something wrong with this servant of yours. I suggest that we capture him and interrogate him." The handsome young man with white feathers walked over with his hands clasped behind his back, looking Su Yu up and down. His gaze was full of disdain and judgment. Lai Hongjin shook her head lightly. "He's not a servant. He's my friend. Also, it's best not to capture him and interrogate him before you've investigated the matter thoroughly." Su Yu did not understand what was going on. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked. Capturing and interrogating someone with just a few words was incomprehensible. The handsome young man with white feathers shook his head and said, "The real Beast King has been followed by my people. It's 1 trillion miles to the southeast. We're talking about the past now, and it's completely different from the northwest you mentioned." Taking another look at the heavily injured Lai Yuan, the handsome young man with white feathers said indifferently, "Why did you lie that the Beast King is in the opposite direction? Also, how did Lai Yuan get injured? You should be glad that you're Lai Hongjin's servant. If you were mine..." Humph. Even though Lai Hongjin had already clarified that Su Yu was not a servant, he still addressed him as such. Was it because he thought that Su Yu was a servant? "I've already said that you can't make wild guesses without evidence," Lai Hongjin said indifferently. Even though she said that, the way she looked at Su Yu had changed slightly. Su Yu finally understood what they meant. They had mistaken Lai Yuan's injuries as Su Yu's doing. Although he did not know why there was a Beast King in the southeast, the one in the northwest was indeed a Beast King. "If you have nowhere else to go, follow us to the southeast and capture the Beast King alive. Lai Hongzhen nodded. Then, without waiting for Su Yu's reply, she left quickly. The handsome young man with white feathers glanced at Su Yu coldly, his eyes filled with undisguised suspicion. Su Yu stood where he was, thinking for a while, then sighed deeply. It's hard to be a good person. I'd better follow her and take a look. If she's dead, then everything will be over. An hour later, a group of people appeared on the ground. It was Lai Bo and the others. Their expressions were filled with excitement. Sister, you're finally here. Obviously, they were closer to the Beast King's position, but they could not defeat the Beast King by themselves. Hence, they were waiting here for Lai Hongzhen. Suddenly, they saw the handsome young man with white feathers beside Lai Hongzhen and were shocked. They stepped forward joyfully and said respectfully, Xianling Prince, why are you here? Lai Bo's words and actions showed his deep respect. Xianling King was a powerful demon king who ruled over 100 prefectures. His abilities overshadowed all the prefectures. Among them, Tianyin Continent was one of the prefectures ruled by Xianling King. The handsome young man with white feathers before them was Xianling King's 9th son, Yu Wenqing. Throughout history, the probability of a demon king's son becoming a god guard was far higher than that of an ordinary person. Usually, among 10 new god guards, more than 5 were the demon king's son. Yu Wenqing's status was extraordinary. Even the master of Tianyin Continent had to be polite to him, not daring to offend him. As the young master of Tianyin Continent, it was only natural for Lai Bo to be so respectful. Oh, you are. Unexpectedly, Yu Wenqing did not have a deep impression of him. Lai Bo was not angry. Instead, he smiled and said, I'm Lai Bo, the 3rd young master of Tianyin Continent. When you came to Tianyin Continent, we met. Yu Wenqing nodded slightly and said, Oh, so it's you. He still did not remember. He gave a perfunctory reply, then focused his attention on Lai Hongzhen and conversed with him with a smile. His expression was warm, as if he was not talking to anyone else. Lai Bo grinned. He knew that Yu Wenqing was interested in his sister, so he did not disturb them. His sister and Yu Wenqing had been in the same school for 3 years in the academy founded by the Xianling King. He had always been interested in his sister, but because she was focused on the martial path and had no interest in romance, he had never accepted her. Yu Wenqing had never given up all these years. He did not know whether it was a coincidence or a deliberate arrangement, but he had coincidentally met his sister at the 3rd hunting ground. Shaking his head, he retreated to the back. Realizing that Su Yu was there too, he frowned. Aren't you traveling alone? Why have you come to meet up with my sister? Are you afraid of running into danger? He was not afraid of running into danger himself, but he was afraid that Lai Hongzhen would be in danger. You could say that. Su Yu did not want to explain too much. Lai Bo was a little displeased, but when he recalled that they were not counting on this person, he did not mind. He said, Suit yourself. Just don't drag us down. In fact, it should be them who did not want to drag Su Yu down. Su Yu could come and go as he pleased. Even the Beast King of half-Dowlords could not do anything to him. The group hurried on their way, and finally arrived at the place where the Beast King appeared. It was a demonic tiger the size of a small mountain, its body covered with bony spikes. Dozens of powerful hunters were surrounding it, trying to kill it. The demonic tiger's cultivation was extremely strong. It was at the peak of the 5 crown martial emperors. The strongest of the hunters around it was only at the peak of the 5 crown martial emperors. Although the demonic tiger was alone, it suppressed all of the hunters, leaving them with no power to resist. Its unparalleled ferocity made one's heart tremble. Yu Wenqing smiled calmly. A bunch of scoundrels trying to get their hands on a Beast King. Sister Zhen, wait a moment. I will help you capture a Beast King alive. I will lend you a hand. Lai Bo came to a sudden understanding when he heard this. Yu Wenqing and his sister's coincidental meeting was not a coincidence. The fact that he was willing to hand over a Beast King to his sister meant that he had already captured a Beast King. He had come here especially for his sister. He wanted to help her capture a Beast King and win his sister's heart. As if understanding Yu Wenqing's intentions, Lai Hongzhen said, "I will do it myself. I have brought 3 helpers with me. It will not be difficult to capture a Beast King." Yu Wenqing said, "Sister Zhen, do not underestimate this Beast King. Compared to other Beast Kings, it is not just a little bit stronger. 3 peak 5 crown martial emperors may not be able to do anything to it. Just watch me." He leaped forward and shot out 7 peak emperor tier offensive talismans from his palm. Instantly, the ferocious tiger demonic beast retreated frantically. His eyes were filled with deep fear. "Humph, do you think it will be that easy to leave?" Yu Wenqing put his palms together. 10 peak 5 crown emperor tier talismans rose into the air and formed a circle in front of Yu Wenqing. Lai Bo's eyes flashed with deep admiration. Talisman set? A talisman set was a talisman of the same type that was refined by the same person. The talismans were connected to each other. Not only did the power of their attacks stack, but they also complemented each other. Usually, each talisman could be used more than 10 times. 10 talismans in a set meant hundreds of peak 5 crown emperor tier attack. Unless one was a half-step Downlord, anyone else would die without a doubt. The 3 peak 5 crown emperors who had come with Lai Hongzhen smiled bitterly. "Let's not embarrass ourselves." With Yu Wenqing's grand lineup, there was no need for them to do anything. Looking at the tiger demonic beast, they could not help but sympathize. No matter how powerful he was, he could only blame himself for not being born into a good family when he met a prince who was willing to use talismans. However, Su Yu stared at the tiger demonic beast and frowned deeply. His soul was far more powerful than anyone else's, and he could clearly feel the terror of the tiger demonic beast's soul. "Ask him to come back quickly. He is no match for the tiger demonic beast," Su Yu reminded him. Lai Bo glanced at him and said, "Ignorant. Yu Wenqing has the absolute advantage. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that. If you don't understand, please shut your mouth." Almost at the same time as his voice trailed off, something strange happened. Black spots suddenly appeared on the surface of the tiger demonic beast's body, covering its entire body. Yu Wenqing's offensive talismans landed on its body. The metal was absorbed by the spots, and it did not cause any harm. Yu Wenqing, who had a stern look on his face, was slightly stunned. He activated the talisman set and continued to attack. However, after the 100 peak 5 crown emperor's attacks landed, the tiger demonic beast was still unharmed. Yu Wenqing realized that something was wrong. He stared at the tiger demonic beast and said, "Are you a mutated Bonespur tiger demonic beast? Haha, you finally realized?" The Bonespur tiger demonic beast laughed. "Are you surprised? Are you surprised?" Yu Wenqing sucked in a breath of cold air. Was it really a mutated Bonespur tiger demonic beast? The tiger demonic beast race had strict requirements for bloodline inheritance. Even the slightest mutation would mean certain death. However, there was an almost negligible probability that the mutated tiger demonic beast would not die. Not only would it not die, but it would also be born with a new and terrifying talent. It would be invincible among those of the same level. Therefore, when encountering a mutated tiger demonic beast of the same level, there was no need to consider whether or not it could win. Instead, one should consider whether or not it could escape. We have gone through a lot of trouble and finally lured a person of sufficient importance here. Whether or not we can remove our status as prey depends on you, Xianling Prince. The tiger demonic beast laughed coldly and opened its giant mouth, letting out a beastly roar. Lai Hongzhen's guards and the peak 5 crown emperors all fainted on the spot. The only ones who were barely holding on were Su Yu, Yu Wenqing, Lai Hongzhen, and Lai Bo. Su Yu had the soul path fragment, Yu Wenqing had a powerful soul protecting treasure, and Lai Hongzhen and Lai Bo were barely holding on by relying on their demonic bloodline. Even so, apart from Su Yu, who was almost unaffected, the rest of them were in extreme danger and could not hold on for long. At the critical moment, Lai Hongzhen clenched his teeth slightly and flicked a finger on Lai Bo's body. A blood-red light entered Lai Bo's body from the tip of his finger. Then, Lai Hongzhen fainted on the spot. On the other hand, Lai Bo's pale face was much calmer. It was Lai Hongzhen who had transferred her demonic blood into Lai Bo's body at the most critical moment. She had left the hope of survival to her younger brother and had chosen to die. Yu Wenqing's expression changed drastically. He looked at the unconscious Lai Hongzhen and had no intention of taking her with him. He flapped the white wings on his back and fled immediately. Lai Bo was struggling slightly, but he could not care less about Lai Hongzhen. He turned and fled. In the blink of an eye, only Su Yu was left standing where he was. Your attainments in the soul path are quite profound. You are not afraid of my innate talent, the giant roared. The tiger demonic beast licked his long, scarlet tongue. Generally speaking, strong souls are great nourishment to me. For some unknown reason, he did not pay much attention to Yu Wenqing, as if he was not worried that he could escape. He would update the next chapter tomorrow. Chapter 2093. Su Yu said calmly, "If you like to eat, then come with me." He suddenly shot off into the distance. Hee, live prey is always more interesting to eat. The mutated tiger demon grinned and chased after Su Yu, ignoring Lai Hongzhen and the others on the ground. There was a huge gap between their cultivations. Without using the yin-yang wings of Tai Chi, Su Yu was quickly overtaken. He floated in front of a mountain and slowly turned around. "Oh? You didn't plan to run away? Are you trying to protect your companions?" The mutated tiger demon looked at Su Yu's unusual behavior and immediately realized what was going on. Su Yu said, "If I were you, I'd leave immediately if I couldn't figure out the enemy." The mutated tiger demon's eyes moved slightly. He really couldn't see through Su Yu. His cultivation was obviously quite weak, but everyone was afraid of his soul's roar, yet he seemed to be immune to it. However, cultivation was the foundation that determined one's strength. No matter how mysterious the opponent was, a low cultivation meant that the opponent wasn't very strong. A snake trying to disguise itself as a dragon to scare people will only make a fool of itself. The mutated tiger demon chuckled, and hundreds of bone spikes shot out of his body. They were like thunderbolts, thrusting toward Su Yu at a speed that couldn't be detected by the naked eye. Su Yu took out the royal dragon sword and swept it across. The sky was filled with pitch-black sword shadows, which fused with the power of the dragon in the sword to form a giant dragon formed by sword shadows. Clang! Roar! Sizzle! Countless collisions caused incomparably strong shock waves, tearing the space apart like dense spider webs. Wisps of nothingness seeped through the broken barrier. The mountain where Su Yu was the first to bear the brunt of the impact. The land within 1,000,000 miles was full of cracks, and the hot spring hidden deep underground erupted. The gap between their cultivations was too great. The giant dragon formed by sword shadows was crushed by the white bone shadows, and it flew toward Su Yu. Space folding. Su Yu tore the space in front of him apart with one hand. Because of the space folding, the bone spikes in front of him strangely bypassed Su Yu and shot toward his back. However, after the bone spikes missed their target, they turned around and shot back again. Endless space. Su Yu put his palms together, and his 9 fingers moved like a wheel. His right eye was red. He had unexpectedly combined the space ability of the divine 9-dragon Cauldron. With a puffing sound, a giant space sphere was formed with Su Yu as the center. When the bone spikes shot into the sphere, they seemed to be frozen in place and could only move extremely slowly like snails. This technique combined the law of space and space freeze to create a space that was almost absolutely stagnant. Mastery of the law of space. Am I seeing things? The mutated tiger demon was extremely surprised. A person like you should at least be a precious disciple of the mysterious Dao Palace. How could you become the servant of a small continent lord in the demon realm? Su Yu's left eye emitted a purple light as he raised his hand and pointed a finger at the mutated tiger demon. Time freeze. The tiger demon suddenly felt an invisible presence binding it. It shook violently and broke the bindings with difficulty. However, Su Yu came forward with his sword and stabbed it into the tiger's eye. During the battle just now, Su Yu had seen clearly that there were strange spots on the tiger's back, which allowed it to be immune to most attacks. Only its eyes were its weakness. When the sword pierced through, one of the tiger's eyes was immediately destroyed by the sword's shadow and the powerful dragon might that surged in. The mutated tiger demon roared in pain, and an incomparably powerful desolation force rushed out of its body. It was almost visible to the naked eye, and it directly shook Su Yu and his sword away. Human! The mutated tiger demon roared angrily after being stabbed in the eye. It tried to recover its eye. For a tiger demon at the peak of the five-crown divine realm, recovering its eye should only take a moment. However, it was surprised to find that there was an extremely obscure power left in its eye socket. That power was very obscure. Not only did it destroy the vitality that had been reassembled in its eye sockets, but it also spread rapidly throughout its body, devouring all the vitality in its body. The power of death? Wrong. It's the death vortex. Just as Su Yu's voice fell, the power of death in its body suddenly rotated rapidly, and then suddenly erupted. The power of death, which was originally only in its eye sockets, immediately sprayed to all parts of its body, destroying its vitality. Its lustrous tiger skin quickly dimmed because of the rapid loss of vitality, and all parts of its body showed signs of rapid aging. A faint aura of death spread out from his body. The mutated tiger demon turned pale with fright, and immediately used the desolation force to resist the power of death in its body. Ultimate ruins! Su Yu swept his sword at that moment. However, the mutated tiger demon was indeed powerful. Even with the power of death in its body, it did not reduce its fierceness. Avoiding its weak point, its tiger tail swept fiercely like a long whip, and it directly hit Su Yu. The moment it flew backward, Su Yu's eyes flashed. He raised his right hand, and the little Kylin was suddenly thrown away, landing on the thigh of the mutated tiger demon. The little Kylin clung to the mutated tiger demon's thigh with its 4 hooves, and immediately opened its mouth to bite it. The poor little Kylin did not have sharp teeth, so it could not bite through the tiger's skin no matter how hard it tried. Instead, it bit out a mouthful of fur. Bah! I don't believe I can't deal with you. She could not bite through it, so she simply opened her mouth to spit out a large amount of power of nothingness. Chi! The power of nothingness was a terrible thing. However, when it fell on the leg of the mutated tiger demon, it only corroded a piece of its leg. Apart from that, it did not cause much damage. This was the power of nothingness, which would melt any existence except for the divine warriors. The toughness of the mutated tiger demon's body was amazing. I spit, 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 spit. The little Kylin spat out dozens of mouthfuls of power of nothingness, filling the entire body of the mutated tiger demon. Its whole body began to rot violently, and the mutated tiger demon could not help but roar. Internally, there was the power of death that was rapidly eroding the body, and externally, there was the terrible power of nothingness. The mutated tiger demon was still extremely tenacious, and its ferocity did not diminish. Instead, it shot out tyrannical chains of law, lashing out randomly. Wherever the whip touched, it would be completely destroyed. The little Kylin was so scared that it quickly turned into nothingness to avoid the disaster. It ran to Su Yu's shoulder with lingering fear. This guy is so difficult to deal with. An ordinary peak 5-crown divine warrior would have been killed or seriously injured by them. However, the mutated tiger demon only suffered some minor injuries. Seeing that its ferocious power was getting stronger and stronger, the 6 chains of law behind Su Yu swept out at the same time. The combined law was like a hot knife through butter, crushing all the opponent's chains. What? The mutated tiger demon was shocked. 6 chains of law? At the moment when it was shocked, Su Yu took the opportunity to flash over, and once again stabbed the sword into its remaining eye. The mutated tiger demon roared and whipped Su Yu away with its tail. However, at this moment, Su Yu slashed backward with his sword. With the help of the powerful counterforce, not only did he stop flying backward, but he also flew back to the mutated tiger demon. At the same time, he took out the primeval chaos cudgel. Restriction open. He tore apart all 3 layers of restriction with his hand. All the power in the primeval chaos cudgel was immediately released. Su Yu swung the cudgel down with a loud bang. Even Su Yu himself felt dizzy from the soul shock wave that was produced. The mutated tiger demon suffered this blow, and one could imagine how it felt. The ferocious mutated tiger demon roared violently, and its body fell to the ground, unable to stand steadily. It could be seen that its soul had been heavily hit by the primeval chaos cudgel. If it was any other peak 5-crown divine warrior, it would have passed out after receiving a full blow from the primeval chaos cudgel. However, the mutated tiger demon could still maintain most of its sanity, and there was no sign of it passing out. It seemed that this tiger's soul was extremely strong. It was difficult to use normal means of attack. With a thought, Su Yu took out the demon forbidden heart hammer and hit its head hard. This object was the forbidden fairy embryo of the demon realm. Even a powerful path master like Meng Qir had been defeated by this object, let alone the mutated tiger demon. As the hammer smashed down, the mutated tiger demon roared at the sky, and its eyes went blank. It had lost all its memories, leaving only its instincts. The loud roar sent Su Yu flying, and the mutated tiger demon turned to escape. However, it had only taken a few steps before Su Yu caught up with it. Having lost its memories, the mutated tiger demon was no longer dangerous. Under the continuous bombardment of the primeval chaos cudgel, the mutated tiger demon finally howled and lay on the ground, breathing heavily. He had finally succeeded in subduing it. Su Yu was exhausted, and he let out a long breath. He had really put in a lot of effort. Fortunately, he had succeeded. As he was about to capture the tiger demon, 2 auras came together. It was the Xianling prince, Yu Wenqing, and Lai Hongzhen's younger brother, Lai Bo. They stared at the dying mutated tiger demon on the ground in shock, their eyes filled with disbelief. They had sensed a huge movement in this place, so they had come here to investigate. Unexpectedly, what they saw was the scene in front of them. Who did this? Yu Wenqing looked around in shock, thinking that it was done by a strong man. He had seen the power of the mutated tiger demon. Even a peak 5-crown emperor would be in danger, so it was impossible for a mere servant to do this. What do you think? Su Yu said calmly. He did not have a good impression of him. Looking at Su Yu, who was covered in wounds, Yu Wenqing was shocked. It was really Su Yu? How did you do it? Yu Wenqing was still doubtful. Su Yu ignored him, and reached out to capture the mutated tiger demon. Yu Wenqing's expression kept changing. Right at that moment, Su Yu was shocked, and he felt an extreme sense of danger. Looking up, he saw that the whole sky had darkened. It was the half-Dowlord Beast King. Su Yu's eyes darkened slightly. Of all times, it had to come now. Even though he had the Tao-destroying pestle, he was exhausted, and his martial energy was lacking. It was impossible for him to resist it. Without thinking, Su Yu prepared to activate his wings and leave. With these wings, escaping would not be a problem. Yu Wenqing and Lai Bo's faces were pale, and they were terrified. Yu Wenqing immediately activated his wings and fled. However, the Beast King seemed to have locked onto him. Wherever he fled, the shadow would follow. What made his heart sink even more was that a figure had passed him and was rushing forward. It was Su Yu. He was carrying the mutated tiger demon with one hand, and his movement technique was even faster than him. Chapter 2094. The talisman had no offensive power, but it had a strong binding effect, trapping Su Yu in the center. Su Yu's expression changed slightly, and he immediately tried to break through the talisman. However, the power of the talisman lay in its ability to explode continuously, breaking through one talisman after another. There was no way he could escape in a short period of time. Furthermore, Yuanqing took the opportunity to snatch the mutated tiger demon from Su Yu's hands, then swaggered off. The giant shadow hesitated for a moment, but did not pursue Yuanqing. Instead, it stepped on Su Yu. With that, Yuanqing was finally able to escape. Su Yu's eyes were filled with anger. Seeing that the giant footprint was about to land on him, and that he had nowhere to run, he took out the substitution treasure that Mao Susu had given him. After imbuing it with the power of desolation, the substitution treasure did not replace Su Yu. Instead, a powerful space appeared, teleporting away the land within a 100-mile radius around Su Yu. Moreover, it was teleported in different directions. The entire land split into thousands of pieces, all of which were teleported away. Su Yu and the little Kylin were also teleported away. He was both angry and amused at the same time. What was Mao Susu up to? Wasn't it supposed to be a substitution treasure? How did it become a space teleportation? However, judging from the range of the space teleportation, it was shocking. The owner of this item, even if he was not a Pathmaster, was at least a half-step Pathmaster. Moreover, although this item was not a substitute, it managed to teleport him away at the critical moment, avoiding the fatal attack. The reason why the space was being transported irregularly in all directions should be because of the huge footprint that had shattered the teleportation. After teleporting for an unknown amount of time, Su Yu fell to the ground with a thud. At the same time, a petite, cute young girl with a pair of cat ears was in his arms. She sat on Su Yu's body with a blank expression, looking around in confusion. This is the fourth hunting ground? How could we have traveled so far? Different hunting grounds had different levels of demonic energy, so the cat-eared young girl recognized it immediately. Her eyes were wide like walnuts, and she did not blink. That's not right, I should have been teleported 10 million miles away from you. How could I appear so far away? Why am I not the least bit surprised? Mao Susu. Su Yu's cold snort could be heard from beneath her. Mao Susu looked down and got up with an embarrassed expression. Don't worry, I'll definitely find the refiner and have him give you justice. Really, wasn't it supposed to be a substitute magic treasure? How did it become a teleportation magic treasure? Does he have any sense of responsibility? Really? Su Yu stood up, grabbed her head with one hand and lifted her up. He then said calmly, I don't know whether other people have a sense of responsibility, but you almost killed me. Fortunately, this spatial teleportation was relatively stable and did not completely shatter under a single stomp. Instead, it collapsed. If it wasn't stable enough, Su Yu would have died in the space collapse. Mao Susu knew she couldn't resist, so she didn't bother. She crossed her arms in front of her chest. Mortal, this is the second time you've treated me like this. Do you know how many young elites who admire me will beat you to death? Su Yu tossed him aside angrily. Surveying the surroundings, he asked, How far is this place from the Tianyin continent? Mao Susu rubbed her head and said nonchalantly, It's very far. If we want to go back, it'll take about 2 months. I'm talking about the speed of a half-path master. With our speed, let me think, it might take 10 years. 2 months? Fortunately, it's not too far, Su Yu said. Mao Susu rolled her eyes at him. Hey, you can't just listen to what people say. I told you, that's the speed of a half-path master. Su Yu grabbed her shoulder and said, Lead the way, I'll let you experience the speed of a half-path master. To be precise, even a half-path master couldn't match his speed. Mao Susu pointed in the direction of the Tianyin continent and said nonchalantly, "Just go straight in that direction." Before she could finish her sentence, Su Yu grabbed her shoulder. Then, a pair of ridiculously huge jade wings suddenly unfurled. Wow! What is this thing? Without waiting for him to take a closer look, the wings flapped violently, and they were 1,000,000,000,000 miles away in an instant. Su Yu swallowed a few elixirs on the spot to replenish his primeval energy. Then, he activated it a second time. 10 times in a row, they left the 4th hunting ground and entered the border of the 3rd hunting ground. Mao Susu's eyes widened and she exclaimed excitedly, "Wow! What an amazing pair of wings, I really want them. Oh, I'm so surprised." Seeing Su Yu's expression, Mao Susu immediately changed her words. All of a sudden, Mao Susu rolled her eyes and said, "Hey, why don't we return to the Luoyuan continent? I'll give you 10 times what Hong Hong gave you. Really, I swear." Su Yu looked at her and said, "Then, you'll want it back 10 times, right?" He didn't even need to use the visitation spell to know what Mao Susu was thinking. Wouldn't it be like sending a sheep into a wolf's den if they returned to her Luoyuan continent? Don't say that, am I that shameless? Mao Susu rubbed her nose, feeling wronged. Su Yu calmly shook his head. "I feel that the word shameless, when compared to you, is so holy." She knocked Su Yu unconscious the first time they met and wanted to snatch the little Kylin. No one else could do that. "Humph. You must be thinking that my purple color isn't as good as Hong Hong's. I knew it, all men are like that." Mao Susu crossed her arms and said bitterly. Su Yu did not say a word. He consumed a few elixirs to replenish his desolate power before continuing on his journey. He had to return to the Tianyin continent. Firstly, he had to get the pass that Lai Hongzhen had promised him. Secondly, he had to get Yu Wenqing. Without the substitution treasure that Mao Susu had given him, he would have been in grave danger. How could he not avenge himself? At the 3rd hunting ground, Yu Wenqing managed to escape from the teleportation in time, only to witness an exceptionally large demon being teleported away. Even though it was only a brief encounter, Yu Wenqing still felt a lingering fear. That must have been a Beast King level existence, right? For 2 Beast Kings to appear in the same hunting ground was completely unexpected. He couldn't help but recall that Su Yu had mentioned before that there was another Beast King. Now, it seemed that everything was true. At that moment, Lai Bo had also escaped by a hair's breadth and met up with Yu Wenqing. "Prince Xianling, it's great that you're all right." Yu Wenqing nodded and said, "Let's go back and see your sister." When the two of them arrived at the place where they had first encountered the mutated tiger demon, Lai Hongzhen was still unconscious. Lai Bo tapped between his brows and retrieved a drop of faint demon blood, injecting it back into Lai Hongzhen's body. Lai Hongzhen slowly regained consciousness. She looked at Lai Bo and Yu Wenqing, who were close at hand. When she noticed the mutated tiger demon, her expression changed and she scrambled to her feet. When she noticed that the mutated tiger demon was on the brink of death and had been captured alive, she asked in shock, "Who captured it alive?" Yu Wenqing said, "It was Su." After a pause, Yu Wenqing's eyes turned slightly and he said, "Yes, it was me." Lai Bo's expression changed. "How could it be you? It was obviously Su Yu. Yu Wenqing hadn't even fought the mutated tiger demon head-on. How could he steal the fruits of others' labor? However, after thinking about it carefully, Su Yu was already dead. Who would know the truth? Was Lai Bo killed by Mr. Yu Wenqing? Lai Hongzhen asked Lai Bo. She felt very strange. After the mutated tiger demon had unleashed its hidden abilities, Yu Wenqing had run away faster than anyone else. How could he have suddenly killed him? Lai Bo looked at Yu Wenqing and bit his lip lightly. He said, "Yes, it was the prince's doing. Su Yu was already dead anyway. Moreover, he was very happy to see his sister marry Prince Xianling. That way, the status of the Tianyin continent would be improved to a certain extent. It would be a great thing for the Tianyin continent. Therefore, He might as well help Yu Wenqing lie so that his sister would have a good impression of him and be grateful to him. Lai Hongzhen put down the doubts in her heart. Even her brother had said so. What else was there to doubt? Thank you, Prince Xianling, for saving my life. Hongzhen will never forget it. Lai Hongzhen bowed deeply, expressing her gratitude from the bottom of her heart. Lai Hongzhen was well aware of how dangerous the situation was just now. Sister, in order to save you, Prince Xianling fought with the mutated tiger demon for a long time. He almost lost his life a few times. Fortunately, he won by a narrow margin, Lai Bo said. Hearing that, Lai Hongzhen's gratitude deepened, and she bowed deeply to Yu Wenqing again. Yu Wenqing waved his hand indifferently. Sister Zhen, you don't have to be so formal with me. For you, I am willing to do anything. Lai Hongzhen sighed softly in her heart. How could she not understand Yu Wenqing's feelings for her? However, she had heard a little about Yu Wenqing's character. He would change the women by his side in less than a year, and he would never marry them. His main purpose was to toy with them. How could she accept such a person? Hearing Yu Wenqing's pretentious words of intimacy, Lai Hongzhen felt conflicted. However, he had saved her life, so she couldn't say much. She could only sigh inwardly. Looking around, she did not see Su Yu. Where is Su Yu? Lai Bo snorted disdainfully. Him? He abandoned you long ago and ran away. He must be hiding somewhere, too afraid to come out. Hearing that, Lai Hongzhen sighed softly. You shouldn't blame him. His cultivation isn't strong enough to fight against the mutated tiger demon. He'll just be waiting for death if he stays. Even though she said that, she still felt a little uncomfortable. She had never expected him to fight against the mutated tiger demon, but was it really that difficult to save him? Compared to Yu Wenqing, Su Yu was really, forget it, let's go back first. Once he realizes that he is safe, he will naturally return to the Tianjin prefecture, Lai Hongzhen said with a sigh. Yu Wenqing chuckled disapprovingly. Su Yu would probably never return. Half a month after they left, a huge shadow descended, finally transforming into a giant made of rocks. All our efforts have been in vain, the stone man said. He grabbed a handful of sand from the ground, which had the blood essence of the mutated tiger demon on it. However, let's save the mutated tiger demon first. It won't be too late to look for that human lad later. With a swoosh, he sped toward the Tianjin prefecture. Chapter 2095. Along the way, Su Yu kept recalling the great battle with the mutated tiger demon. During that battle, Su Yu had used the ultimate ruin several times, and he had gained some understanding. Along the way, he hurried along while quietly comprehending. Occasionally, he would stop and fuse the understanding in his heart into his sword technique. A month later, in an ancient forest very close to the Tianjin continent, Su Yu held his sword with both hands, his expression solemn. His entire body's aura was completely restrained. At first glance, it looked like a mortal holding a long sword. But in an instant, his aura changed abruptly, becoming abnormally swift and fierce. Wisps of sword energy were burrowing out of his pores. It was as if he was the sword and the sword was him. Ultimate Ruin Sword. Su Yu swept his sword horizontally. Suddenly, the whole world darkened, covered by the pitch-black sword shadows. The sun and moon lost their light, and the world lost its color. At the same time, thousands of sword shadows shuttled back and forth, leaving faint black marks on the whole world. Those marks were none other than the power of nothingness that had seeped through the world. The power of this sword was more than double that of the past. Beside him, Mao Susu was tearing off the petals one by one, saying, "He's a bad guy, no, 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 he's—" Suddenly, the sky darkened. Mao Susu looked up, and her expression changed. This guy's sword techniques are getting more terrifying by the day. She had witnessed with her own eyes that Su Yu's sword techniques were improving day by day. Until the current terrifying scene. Faint marks were left in the space. This was already the level that a peak 5-crown emperor could achieve. With this sword technique alone, few people below the peak 5-crown emperor could be his match. Even if it was a peak 5-crown emperor who had just entered the peak, he could use his sword techniques to fight them head-on. Looking at the gradually fading marks in the sky, Su Yu nodded slightly, quite satisfied. The ultimate ruin style had reached the lower class. If he trained diligently, it would not be difficult for him to reach the upper class. Looking at the Tianyin continent, which was close at hand, Su Yu put away his sword and returned to the Tianyin prefecture with Mao Susu. Inside the mansion, in a quiet and elegant backyard, Yu Wenqing was admiring flowers with Lai Hongzhen. "Little sister Zhen, look at this flower. It isn't tainted by a speck of dust, it's fresh and beautiful. Do you know what I'm thinking of?" Yu Wenqing gently looked at Lai Hongzhen beside her and said, "I thought of little sister Zhen, because she is more beautiful than a flower." Hearing these words filled with affection, Lai Hongzhen felt repulsed, but he couldn't show it. After returning for more than half a month, Yu Wenqing stayed as a guest in the heavenly silver region, visiting Lai Hongzhen every few days. He tried everything he could to find an opportunity to be close to her. She knew that Yu Wenqing was trying hard to cultivate the relationship between them. However, it was really hard for her to have a good impression of him. She only felt grateful. However, Yu Wenqing was very patient, and was not anxious in the slightest. Not only did he intentionally create a scene of him and Lai Hongzhen having a good relationship, he also continuously expressed goodwill towards the Heavenly Silver Region Lord, causing the entire Heavenly Silver Region to misunderstand that the two of them were about to get married. Now, wherever Lai Hongzhen went, he would hear the discussions of the servants. What was discussed the most was that First Miss was deeply moved by the hero who saved the beauty and was prepared to repay him with her body. Moreover, her father had even sought out Lai Hongzhen to have a heart-to-heart talk with him twice, and from his words, it was obvious that he had the intention of matchmaking them. It could be said that Yu Wenqing had already created an established fact that they were already together. "Mr. Yuan, I am a little tired. If you are still in the mood, why don't you let Lai Bo come and accompany you?" Lai Hongzhen said. Yu Wenqing apologized elegantly. "I was thoughtless. If younger sister Zhen is tired, you can go back and rest." He knew that Lai Hongzhen was still repulsed by him. However, with his methods of toying with women, he was already 100% sure that he could win her over. Now that he had already created an established fact, all he needed was a chance to force her to feel morally remorseful and accept him. "Hong Hong. Is Hong Hong here? We are back." All of a sudden, loud shouts could be heard throughout half of the mansion. A housekeeper hurried over to report, saying, "First Miss, the cat lady and Su have returned." "Mao Susu and Su Yu?" Lai Hongzhen was puzzled. "Why are they together? I will go and welcome them." Yu Wenqing was left behind, his eyes gloomy and flickering with deep shock. Su Yu was still alive? A hint of panic flashed across his eyes. Once Su Yu returned, he would surely tell Lai Hongzhen the truth. At that time, the fact that he had harmed Su Yu and stolen the Beast King by impersonating him would be exposed. With Lai Hongzhen's abhorrence of evil, once he knew the truth, there would be no possibility of anything happening between them. After all, he was a love expert who had toyed with many women. Yu Wenqing immediately came up with a plan. He found Lai Bo knowing that Su Yu had returned. Lai Bo was also very flustered. Back then, he had abandoned his sister and escaped alone. Only Su Yu knew about this. If he were to say it, "What are you panicking about?" Yu Wenqing said calmly. "Tell me, would Lai Hongzhen and the people of the Tianyin continent believe you and me, or would they believe an outsider?" Only then did Lai Bo come to a sudden realization and said, "Yeah, what am I afraid of? Back then, only we were there. The truth we told is the truth. Who would believe his words?" Lai Bo was very confident. Yu Wenqing said, "Haha, then let's have a face-to-face confrontation and turn our fabricated story into the truth." The two of them hurried to the door. Mao Susu had left without saying goodbye, suddenly disappearing from the Tianjin continent. This had become a thorn in the side of the Tianjin continent prefecture. If she were to disappear, they would not be able to answer to Luo Yunzhou. Hearing that she had returned, the important people of the prefecture went to greet her. Seeing so many people, Yuan Qing was even more satisfied. If more people knew the truth, then no matter who Su Yu told, no one would believe him in the future. Mao Susu was surrounded by the crowd, replying sweetly to the crowd. As for Su Yu, no one was interested. Isn't this the Su Yu who abandoned Big Sister and escaped alone? Why are you back? I thought you had left the Tianjin continent and would never come back, Lai Bo said, having seen Yuan Qing's look. What he wanted to do now was to provoke Su Yu, to make him take the initiative to quarrel with them. In the quarrel, Su Yu would reveal the truth, and Yuan Qing would reveal their truth. In comparison, who would the crowd believe more? It would undoubtedly be Yuan Qing and Lai Bo. One side was the Xianling prince and the Tianjin continent's third young master, and the other side was a human of unknown origin. It was obvious whose truth was more trustworthy. Escaped alone? Su Yu frowned slightly, not quite understanding how he had escaped. Indifferently, he said, "Can you explain it clearly?" Lai Bo shook his head and sighed. "What did you do yourself, and you need someone else to explain it for you? Don't you feel ashamed that an outsider like me has to say it?" Su Yu did not say a word, staring at him calmly. Lai Bo said, "When the mutant tiger demon attacked, you abandoned my sister and escaped alone. Is that true? My sister treated you so well, but when it came to the end, you were a cowardly bandit who only cared about escaping." Su Yu raised his brows slightly. He escaped? If he remembered correctly, Lai Bo had abandoned Lai Hongzhen and escaped alone, hadn't he? Taking another look at Yuan Qing, Su Yu's mind raced, and he vaguely understood what had happened. He was afraid that not only had he escaped, but even the mutant tiger demon he had captured might have been Yuan Qing's doing. Now, Lai Bo had taken the initiative to invert right and wrong, hoping to incite a quarrel between them, and then reveal the truth they had fabricated. Su Yu immediately understood what they were plotting. If he retorted, he would be playing right into their hands. Thinking of this, Su Yu's expression was indifferent. He said nothing and did not respond. "That's not right." Mao Susu's cat ears twitched. "This fellow's speed of escape is terrifying. If he could save Hongzhen, why wouldn't he take her with him?" She had personally experienced Su Yu's escape speed, which was even more exaggerated than a half-path master's. Was it difficult for such a person to take Lai Hongzhen with him? Lai Bo said, "Cowards, even if they have the ability to take people with them, it is difficult for them to have the courage to save others in danger. It is not difficult to understand." He stared at Su Yu and said, "Why do you still have the face to come back? I thought you would hide in the Tianjin prefecture forever and never show yourself again." Hearing his repeated provocations, Su Yu was even more certain of his guess. It seemed that it was true. He did not speak again, nor did he explain further. He turned and left the Tianjin prefecture. "Wait, where are you going?" Lai Hongzhen called out to Su Yu. Su Yu turned his head and said, "To where I should go." The only reason he had stayed in the Tianjin prefecture was to obtain the entry pass. Since no one believed him, what else could he say? Seeing that Su Yu did not even intend to take the entry pass, Lai Hongzhen was puzzled. Did he not know that if she died outside, no one would help her with the entry pass? Since he could leave so easily, there was no reason for him not to save her, who was unconscious on the way. But her younger brother Lai Bo had said it with certainty, repeatedly confirming that Su Yu had abandoned her and fled. What else was there for her to doubt? She waved her hand, signaling her younger brother and the people in the prefecture to shut up. She said, "If he saves me, it is a favor. If he doesn't, it is his duty. There is nothing to blame." As she spoke, she took out a glittering golden scroll, which had the seal of the Tianjin prefecture on it. She passed it to Su Yu and said, "The entry pass has been prepared. Take it." Su Yu thought for a moment, then took the entry pass. He deserved it. He did not say a word of thanks, but merely glanced at Lai Hongjin and said, "We shall not meet again." Hearing what sounded like an eternal farewell, and looking at those calm eyes, Lai Hongjin's heart skipped a beat for some reason. She recalled the scene when she had first met Su Yu. That calm and composed person. Could he really be the kind of person who would flee in a panic in the face of danger? But the truth was clear. Perhaps it was just as her younger brother had said. You would never know what kind of choice a coward would make in times of danger. Have a safe journey. Lai Hongjin did not even try to persuade Su Yu to stay. Given his reputation for abandoning her, Su Yu staying would only make things more awkward for him. Su Yu nodded indifferently and left silently. Chapter 2096. Yuan Qing frowned slightly. Su Yu left without saying a word. The scene was different from what they had imagined. Not only did it fail to reveal the truth, but it also aroused suspicions. Something doesn't seem right. If he fled to escape punishment, why did he have the nerve to come back? He should know that he won't be treated well this time, right? Could it be for the pass? I feel like something is wrong. Yuan Qing had failed to achieve his goal, but it was good that Su Yu was willing to leave. Mr. Yuan, can you tell us about your heroic deeds? Yes, we are curious. The process must have been dangerous, right? Wow, this is a hero saving a damsel in distress that only appears in storytellers' tales. Su Yu's departure was an insignificant ripple that quickly died down. The women's attention was once again focused on Yuan Qing. He was like the moon surrounded by stars, receiving praise from everyone in the Tianjin prefecture. Haha, it's just a small matter. Don't mention it again, Yuan Qing said calmly. Tell us. We want to hear it. The young women's eyes were sparkling. In every woman's heart, there was a hero who could save them in the most dangerous of times. Was Yuan Qing Lai Hongjin's hero? Not only was he powerful, but he also had an outstanding status. More importantly, he was loyal to Lai Hongjin. Looking at the expectant eyes around him, Yuan Qing sighed helplessly. All right, since you want to hear it, I'll tell you briefly. Therefore, he narrated the story that he and Lai Bo had come up with great emotion. They had never witnessed the power of the tiger demon with their own eyes, so they naturally believed everything Yuan Qing said. Hearing about the danger, everyone's hearts tightened, and they broke out in cold sweat for Yuan Qing. After listening to him, everyone was amazed. What a series of twists and turns! I didn't expect the danger to be more terrifying than I imagined. It was really a narrow escape from death. It's so touching. Mr. Yuan did so much for Hongjin. Lai Bo saw the opportunity and said, Sister, Mr. Yuan risked his life for you. Don't you think you should do something? As soon as he spoke, the crowd started to jeer. Hongjin, you don't have to marry him, but you should at least respond to Mr. Yuan's feelings. That's right. You two are a perfect match. Let's be together. 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 The crowd followed suit. Yuan Qing's lips curled into a smile. This was the result he wanted. Seeing that Lai Hongjin was at a loss of what to do under such an intense atmosphere, he knew that the best opportunity had come. Hongjin, my heart is like the moon in the sky. It's always in your eyes, but it has never shone into your heart. I know you don't like me, but it doesn't matter. As long as my moonlight can illuminate the path ahead of you, it's fine. Hearing his implicit and affectionate confession, many young women covered their red lips, feeling envious and moved. What a beautiful confession! How touching! Hongjin, quickly agree. That's right. If you don't agree, we're going to get angry. With such a husband, what else can I ask for in this life? Under the jeering of the crowd, Lai Hongjin's heart also began to waver. Forced by the situation, she glanced at Yuan Qing and smiled bitterly in her heart. He had saved her life, so she should just accept him. Just as she was about to speak, the entire sky suddenly darkened. It was pitch black, and not a single nebula could be seen. A ray of bronze light shot out from the sky's silver region, repelling the darkness that enveloped it. But, in just an instant, the bronze light was swallowed by the pitch black. A dim eagle fell from the sky, crashing into the sky's silver region capital. Lai Hongzhen's expression changed drastically. She immediately rushed over, only to see an eagle man with broken wings crawling up from the ground with difficulty. Her eyes were filled with deep fear as she said word by word, "Stone demon half-ancestor? It's you?" There were countless stone demons in the demon realm, but there was only one who could embed the name half-ancestor in his name. That was one of the 10 great demon kings of the demon realm in the past, the Stone Demon King. Because of his treason, he was wanted by the demon realm, but had never been recorded. Because, like his name, he had inherited half of the inheritance of the Stone Demon Ancestor. And the Stone Demon Ancestor was a demon emperor of a certain generation. The strength of the Stone Demon half-ancestor, who had inherited half of the Stone Demon Ancestor's bloodline, was terrifying and immeasurable. It was said that the 10 great demon kings had once joined hands to hunt down the Stone Demon King, but not only did they not catch up, they even lost 1 and heavily injured 3. The Stone Demon half-ancestor ended up injured, hiding for hundreds of years. What made the Sky's Silver Region Lord terrified was that the Stone Demon half-ancestor, who had been missing for many years, had reappeared. Stone Demon half-ancestor? Yuan Qing sucked in a breath of cold air, his eyes filled with fear. That was the most vicious criminal in the demon realm, according to the legends. His father, Mysterious Spirit King, could only escape if he encountered it, not daring to fight. Let alone him? The powerful aura of the Stone Demon half-ancestor caused the entire Sky's Silver Region to freeze, falling into a deep deathly silence. Until the black light faded, and a stone man descended upon the Sky's Silver Region. His entire body was made of stone, giving off an incomparably hard feeling. His entire body even emitted a domineering intent. After the stone man appeared, he flicked his finger at the Sky's Silver Region Lord. Instantly, a 3-inch wide bloody hole appeared on the chest of the Sky's Silver Region Lord. The storage space hidden behind him was directly penetrated, revealing the details of the space, only to see a dying tiger demon lying motionlessly on the ground. The stone man lightly sighed. From the ground, a palm formed from sand appeared, bringing the tiger demon to the front of the stone man. "Wake up," the stone man said, his voice filled with a penetrating power. However, the tiger demon remained indifferent. Its eyes were lifeless as it raised its head and smiled foolishly. The stone man's expression changed slightly. He stretched out a finger and pointed at the tiger demon's forehead, his indifferent voice turning gloomy. "Memory destroyed? Who did this?" Everyone's hearts suddenly jumped, as if they had been struck by lightning. They couldn't help but look at Yuan Qing. When he had brought back the mutated tiger demon, it had been such a situation. Moreover, when he had described the process of his battle with the tiger demon, he had clearly stated that he had shattered the tiger demon's memory with a single palm. Whoosh! At this moment, Yuan Qing's face was like that of 4 human faces, pale with a tinge of purple. Senior, paw on the ground beneath his feet, the sand suddenly condensed into a palm, slapping Yuan Qing's cheek. Yuan Qing was slapped so hard that he spun on the spot. "Senior, it wasn't me." Yuan Qing didn't dare to show the slightest bit of anger. Instead, he lowered his voice and said, "There's a misunderstanding. Kneel," the stone man said indifferently. Yuan Qing slightly gritted his teeth. Without even thinking, he immediately knelt down in front of the tiger demon. This scene made everyone feel slightly strange. Although the stone demon half-ancestor was terrifying, Yuan Qing had just described how he did not fear death, and how he fought the mutated tiger demon with an indomitable will. Why did he not have the slightest bit of backbone now? Chapter 2097. Only the Demon King is qualified to stand and talk to me. Yuren could only kneel down to talk to him. The stone demon half-step ancestor said indifferently, "The tiger demon was a great general that followed me to establish the new Demon Dimension dynasty all those years ago, and he saved my life twice. During the final encirclement, he lured the enemies away in order to save me, and that's why he was captured alive and became a beast king that all of you hunted." Hearing this, everyone's hearts twitched, and their faces became even more gloomy. "The tiger demon is my savior," the stone demon sighed as he looked up to the sky. "I have cultivated for hundreds of years, and this time I came back to save him." "Who knew you would do such a cruel thing?" The stone demon stared at Yuwenqing with a cold gaze. The original plan was to lure a powerful demon king's son, capture him, and use him as a hostage so that the demon king could remove the prey mark on the tiger demon's body. As long as the mark was not removed, the tiger demon would not be able to leave the hunting ground. Once it left, it would explode and die. Unexpectedly, the tiger demon encountered an accident, and all its memories were destroyed. Even if the prey mark was removed, it would be worse than death. Yuwenqing was frightened and said hurriedly, "Senior, please spare my life. I didn't capture the tiger demon." Everyone was even more suspicious. Was Yuwenqing trying to shirk his responsibility? If he didn't capture it, then who did? There were only a few of them present at that time, and the strongest one was undoubtedly Yuwenqing. The stone demon said calmly, "Are you trying to shirk your responsibility? If you didn't capture it, why did you bring it back to the Tianyin continent?" "I am." Yuwenqing looked around and saw many pairs of eyes staring at him. The stone demon's eyes gradually turned cold. "You have nothing to say, right? I won't ask for anything else from you, as long as you end up with the same incomplete memory." As he spoke, the stone demon stared at Yuwenqing, and the sand around him squirmed and stabbed at him. At this critical moment, Yuwenqing did not dare to hide anything. He said hurriedly, "It was Su Yu who captured the tiger demon. When I got it, it was already in a state with incomplete memory. It has nothing to do with me." The stone demon snorted lightly. According to the rules of the demon realm, the Beast King is related to the opportunity to enter the demon army. Why would Su Yu give you the Beast King? It doesn't make sense. It seems you still want to quibble. He could no longer listen to Yuwenqing's nonsense, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Yuwenqing was so scared that his little heart was beating wildly. He hurriedly said, "I stole it." The stone demon half-ancestor pondered for a moment before shaking his head. "I don't believe you." Yuwenqing was filled with despair. At this moment, how could he still care about pursuing Lai Hongzhen? He could only hate himself for having to drag this dog-skin plaster onto himself. He hurriedly said, "It's true. It was all true. You can ask Lai Bo if you don't believe me." The stone demon half-ancestor followed his gaze and looked at Lai Bo. With just a glance, Lai Bo's body trembled violently, and his knees almost gave way. He hurriedly said, It's none of my business. I didn't touch the tiger demon." The stone demon half-ancestor spoke indifferently, "What? You're participating as well? Then you have a share too." Bang! A giant palm appeared beneath Lai Bo's feet, slapping him to the ground. Lai Bo covered his face and knelt on the ground obediently. He said pitifully, "Yuwenqing and I really didn't do anything to the tiger demon. We didn't even touch it. After it unleashed its hidden cultivation, we both ran away, leaving only Su Yu there. So, it really has nothing to do with us." Hearing this, everyone was stunned and in disbelief. Lai Hongzhen said, "Wait. That's not what you said just now. You all said that it was Su Yu who ran away first, and that the two of you stayed behind bravely to protect me." The stone demon half-ancestor's eyes turned sharp, and he said indifferently, "Oh? That's interesting. It seems like you're trying to hide it from me and shirk your responsibility." When he said this, the two of them were scared out of their wits. Now that things had come to this, Yu Wenqing didn't dare to hide anything. She just wanted to get rid of the relationship immediately, so she said anxiously, "No, that's not it. I made up a story to gain Lai Hongzhen's favor. After the tiger demon mutated, I ran away immediately. Then you appeared, and I took the opportunity to trap Su Yu and snatched his things. Then, in order to woo Lai Hongzhen, I made up all the lies. Lai Bo can testify to all of this. If you don't believe me, you can search my memory." Lai Bo nodded hurriedly. "Me too. I ran away from the beginning. The tiger demon's transformation has nothing to do with me." Slap, slap. 2 resounding slaps landed on their faces. Lai Hongzhen's eyes were spitting fire, and she glared at them as if she wanted to devour them. Her body couldn't help but tremble. It was unknown whether it was because of anger or shame. "I don't blame you for leaving me behind. But, why did you snatch away Su Yu's fruits of labor, and slander him?" Her heart trembled violently. She had slapped them in the face, but in reality, she had slapped herself in the face. How blind had she been to treat Yu Wenqing, the liar, as her savior, and Su Yu as a coward. Thinking back to how she had coldly given him a pass, and how Su Yu had left the Heavenly Silver Prefecture without a word of explanation, Lai Hongzhen raised her hand and slapped herself in the face. Yes, she wished she could slap herself. Why had she been so stupid, and hurt her savior? Everyone had run away. Even her own brother, who had received her demonic blood as a gift, had abandoned her. Only Su Yu, an outsider whom she had only met once, had stayed behind to fight for her until the end. But what had she done? She had chased him away. This was the worst way to make one's heart go cold. Thinking of this, she chased after him with tears of regret. However, Su Yu's figure was nowhere to be seen. After this departure, he would probably never return. After hearing this, the stone demon half-ancestor tapped their heads with his fingers, searching their memories. After looking, he snorted in disdain. Heartless and shameless people. Xianling King was a man of character, so how could he have given birth to such a coward? He looked at Lai Bo again, and his disdain deepened. Sacrificing yourself to help your sister in the face of danger, and then helping an outsider to toy with his own sister. You are a selfish, heartless thing. I have killed countless people in my life, but killing you would only dirty my hands. The stone demon half-ancestor's feet sank into the ground, and he looked around the Heavenly Silver Prefecture with disdain. He shook his head in disappointment. 100 years have passed, and the demon realm is getting worse with each generation. Despicable people are everywhere. After saying this, he merged into the ground and left. The Heavenly Silver Prefecture fell silent. Everyone looked at each other, and finally, they all stared at Yu Wenqing and Lai Bo. Chapter 2098. Yu Wenqing's status was noble, and Lai Yuan dared not vent his anger. But Lai Bo, he was too ashamed to call him a brother. The living beings in the Tianin continent's mansion were punching and kicking Lai Bo. Lai Bo could tolerate it at first, but when the housekeeper spat at him, he could not help but stand up and yell, "Who do you think you are? How dare you, evil creature!" An enraged voice boomed like thunder in his ears. It was the Tianin continent's mansion master, who was walking over in great strides, his aura rising. When he was in front of Lai Bo, he raised his giant palm and slapped Lai Bo's face. Slap. The slap deformed half of Lai Bo's face. "Father, Lai Bo covered his face, feeling wronged. "Get lost. I don't have a son like you." The Tianin continent's master sent him flying out of the mansion with a slap. "From now on, you are not allowed to step into the Tianin continent." He was planning to expel Lai Bo from the family. Lai Yuan and Lai Hongzhen looked at him angrily, without sympathy. Even though he was a relative, it was difficult for them to be associated with such a relative. The Tianin continent's master stared at Yu Wenqing coldly and said, "Mr. Yu Wenqing, I will report your situation to the Xianling King." Now, please forgive the Tianyin continent's mansion for not being able to entertain you. Send the guest away." With his order, the servants in the mansion immediately chased him out. Yu Wenqing stumbled out of the mansion, his face full of embarrassment. Staring at the signboard of the Tianyin continent's mansion, Yu Wenqing said angrily, "You don't know what's good for you." As the Xianling prince, he was being treated this way. However, what Yu Wenqing was most worried about now was his own safety. Before this, he had been able to travel around the continents alone because of his identity, and no one dared to provoke him. But now it was different. The stone demon half-ancestor had appeared, which meant that the rebel army of the past had reappeared in the demon realm. Looking around cautiously, Yu Wenqing did not dare to cause trouble again, and immediately returned to the mansion. Inside the mansion, Lai Hongzhen said, "Father, I want to go on a long journey." She owed Su Yu an apology and a word of gratitude. If she did not express it, she would feel guilty. "There is no chance." The heavenly silver continent's master sighed. "The stone demon half-ancestor has returned to the demon dimension, and the space barriers between the continents will be reactivated to prevent the stone demon half-ancestor from wreaking havoc. With the world divided, it won't be easy for you to go anywhere, let alone to find Su Yu, who has disappeared without a trace." Lai Hongzhen's face was pale, his heart filled with regret. Several trillion miles away, in the Luo Yun continent far away from the heavenly silver continent, Su Yu appeared on a 1,000-meter-tall ancient tree, and as he looked around, he calmly asked, "Can you let go of me?" Mao Susu hugged his thigh tightly, not letting go for a moment. "No. Mortal, don't even think of leaving me behind." Su Yu said, "I've already done my best by sending you here. It'll be inconvenient for you to follow me from now on." This was a place that one had to pass on the way to the seven-night divine capital. It could be considered as giving Mao Susu a ride. However, he couldn't bring Mao Susu along for the rest of the journey. "Boo-hoo, I'm not." Without giving her a chance to act coquettishly, Su Yu shook Mao Susu away and teleported away. Mao Susu stomped her feet angrily, gnashing her teeth in hatred. "What? You don't know how to be kind to the fairer sex. Don't let me see you again, or else I'll bite you to death." As soon as she finished speaking, Su Yu, who had left, reappeared. Mao Susu was stunned, and immediately corrected herself. "Well, in our Luo Yun continent, biting you to death actually means that I like you very much." However, Su Yu's expression was grave. As he surveyed the surroundings, his gaze gradually changed. "What's going on? Why is there a space barrier in your Luo Yun continent?" He had used the yin-yang wings of Supreme Pole just now, but it had suddenly been obstructed by the isolated space. As he spoke, Su Yu returned the way he had come. However, a moment later, he returned to this place once again. The path he had come from had been sealed. A space barrier had appeared at the border of the entire Luo Yun continent, isolating it from the outside world. A huge space isolation that involved the entire border must have been activated because of a huge incident that concerned life and death, right? Otherwise, just maintaining the existence of such a space barrier would consume resources equivalent to a year's worth of resources in the past. If there was no need, such a huge space barrier would never be activated. "The space barrier has been activated?" Mao Susu said in surprise. Then, she cheered excitedly, jumping 30 feet high. "Oh yeah. That's great. Heaven is helping me." Su Yu glared at her, and Mao Susu corrected herself. "What I mean is, I can bring you back to the Luo Yun prefecture to thank you properly." After thinking for a moment, Su Yu said, "All right, I have something to ask the Luo Yun prefecture's prefecture master." He knew that Mao Susu had asked him to stay behind with no good intentions. However, the space barrier of the Luo Yun continent was self-contained. Attacking one part of it was equivalent to attacking the entire barrier. Without the strength of a half-path master, it was impossible to shake the formation. It would be very difficult to leave the Luo Yun continent. It would be best if he could communicate with the Luo Yun continent master. If it didn't work out, he would consider using the Tao Destruction Pestle to forcibly open it. Under Mao Susu's guidance, Su Yu instantly used his wings and flew to the Luo Yun prefecture's prefecture. However, he had just landed when a rather powerful attack came at him. Su Yu opened his eyes and saw that the Luo Yun prefecture's prefecture had fallen into a sea of flames. The prefecture was being besieged by a group of demons of unknown origins. Their clothes were messy, and it seemed like some of them were peddlers, some were high officials and nobles, and some were the guards of the Luo Yun continent. However, all of them had a yellow silk scarf wrapped around their arms. Mao Susu's eyes were solemn, which was rare for her. She said in a low voice, "The rebel army of the Tai Qian Empire?" "Oh no, father." Mao Susu's expression became anxious, and she was about to pounce down when Su Yu held her back. He said, "Aren't you courting death if you go down now?" The number of rebel soldiers at the moment was incalculable. On the other hand, the Luo Yun prefecture's prefecture was unprepared, perhaps because the rebel army had appeared too suddenly. They had very few soldiers, and they wouldn't be able to hold out for long. If they went down now, they would be courting death. You can't save the Luo Yun prefecture's prefecture. You can only find your father first. Mao Susu's eyes were filled with tears, and she nodded blankly. Her eyes were looking around anxiously. All of a sudden, she saw a piece of remnant ice. She said, "Look, that's the mark of my father's battle. My father has the ice element law, and once he attacks, a large piece of ice will appear in the vicinity." Su Yu understood, and he immediately used the heavenly eyes to scan the surroundings. Sure enough, he saw a series of remnant ice marks. He flew over to take a look, and he saw a black cat with an exceptionally strong body standing on its hind legs, waving its law. The black cat's whole body was muscular, especially the muscles on its chest, which were like balloons that had been blown up. Its face was also rough and wild. It looked like a muscular, burly man. Su Yu looked at him, then at the petite and adorable Mao Susu. He couldn't help but be stunned. Was Mao Susu really not picked up by him? However, the Luo Yun prefecture's master was in a rather bad situation. Chapter 2099. He was being jointly attacked by two half-step Daolords, and his entire body was covered in severe injuries. The most shocking thing was his soul. Based on Su Yu's senses, his soul was already on the verge of collapsing. Now that he was relying on a single breath, he wouldn't be able to hold on for too long. What puzzled Su Yu was that such a severe soul injury must have been caused by a soul attack. But the two people he was fighting with, whether it was magic treasures or divine arts, they were not soul attacked. Could it be that there were hidden experts? He looked around but did not find anything. "Luo Yun Prefecture Governor, it seems like you're a tough one. Just give up and surrender. I believe that the stone demon half-ancestor will put you in an important position." The two half-step Daolords joined forces to attack the Luo Yun Prefecture Governor, causing his body to shatter. The Luo Yun Continent Master laughed boorishly. "Ha ha, it should be the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce that will put me in an important position, right? Sorry, I would rather be a dead soul than a dog of the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce." While laughing, the Luo Yun Continent's master brandished his laws and started a great battle with the two. At some point in time, the mountains and rivers collapsed and the clouds flowed in reverse. The vibrating desolation power formed a terrifying shockwave that destroyed everything in its surroundings. Amidst the smoke and dust, the Luo Yun Continent's master's body was pierced by two chains of law, nailing him to the ground. What a pity! A mighty lord of a generation will fall in the end. The half-step Daolord waved his hand, and a powerful law crushed the body of the Luo Yun Continent's lord. Su Yu sighed silently as he watched. If it was someone else fighting, he might not interfere. But the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce, in his memories, anything that involved them was definitely not a good thing. Su Yu and the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce also had an unexplainable grudge. "Hold on to me!" Su Yu shouted softly, then used his wings to soar into the sky. In the instant that the Luoyun continent's lord's body was torn to shreds, Shao Chun suddenly appeared and grabbed him. Then, he activated the Taiji Yin Yang wings and disappeared. The two half-step Tao Lords immediately noticed it, and they chased after him furiously. However, Su Yu's speed was extremely fast, and they were unable to catch up to him. The two half-step Daolords' eyes were filled with surprise when they landed on a mountain. Who was that? In terms of speed, it has already surpassed a half-step Daolord, right? No matter who it is, chase after it. The Luoyun Prefecture Lord is in possession of a Wenyuan fragment. We have spent a lot of effort to capture him. We can't let all our efforts go to waste. The two half-step Daolords immediately began to fly throughout Luoyun continent in search of the Lord of Luoyun continent. However, even with their strength, they actually didn't notice anything. The Cloudnet continent seemed to be vast, but a half-step Daolord could traverse it in a few breaths of time. Within 2 hours, they had practically gone to every corner of the Luoyun continent, but they had not discovered anything. Unbeknownst to them, in a hidden cave, little Qilin cast out a void sphere, enveloping the group within. In this way, their auras were completely isolated and unable to be discovered. "Father!" Mao Susu hugged the heavily injured continent Lord Luoyun and burst into tears. When she left, Luo Yunzhou was still fine, but when she returned, it had been reduced to such a state. Su Yu did not utter a single word, and simply treated his injuries. He then said calmly, "The injuries on your body are easy to deal with, as you can rely on yourself to heal them. However, as for the injuries on your soul, I am powerless to help you." He let out a deep sigh. If it was an ordinary person, the Luoyun continent master would have already died. However, his willpower was extremely strong, and he had managed to maintain his crumbling soul, which was why he hadn't perished immediately. Now that he had left the battlefield, his tense mind slowly relaxed. His soul was already showing signs of fading away, and he was afraid that it would soon disappear from this world. The Luoyun continent master leaned against the wall and looked at the void sphere, then at the little Qilin. A trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. Then, he looked at Su Yu, and a weak smile appeared on his rough face. "A human? Sometimes I really don't understand why shocking great people always appear in the lowly third-rate clans." Su Yu didn't really understand what he meant, and he wondered, has he met a powerful human before? "Thank you for saving me," the Luoyun continent master said. "I just happened to help you," Su Yu replied calmly. The Luoyun continent master looked at him, then at Mao Susu. He then sighed and said, "Human, I want to give you something." "Continent master, you are too polite. You should try not to speak now, and you might be able to hold on for a while longer." The Luoyun continent master shook his head. "I don't have long to live, and if I don't speak now, I will never have a chance to speak in the future." Su Yu fell silent. He knew his father's injuries better than anyone else. Hearing this, Mao Susu burst into tears. The faint aura of death emanating from her father's body couldn't escape her nose. The Luoyun continent master stroked Mao Susu's head, then looked at Su Yu and said, "I was fortunate enough to come across the skeleton of an almighty human. His corpse was displayed in the abyss, and it has been there since the beginning of the demon realm. It has never been extinguished, and it could be said that even the heavens couldn't bury him, and the earth couldn't destroy him. Anyone who came within 100,000 feet of him would be killed by the aura emitted by his corpse. Even half-path masters were no exception." Su Yu was shocked upon hearing this. Just the aura emitted by a corpse that had been dead for so many years was enough to kill a half-path master? What kind of expert's corpse was this? He had obtained the corpse of a path master before, and it didn't have such a terrifying might. The Absolute Beginning Realm's heavenly book was carved on the corpse, and it was obscure and difficult to understand. No one could decipher it, but I think it must be something extremely important, the Luo Yun continent master said. Su Yu was slightly moved, and he asked, "Does this have anything to do with the gift that you want to give me?" "What I want to tell you is where the human's corpse is," the Luo Yun continent master said. "The corpse's aura is very harmful to the demon clan, but it doesn't seem to have much of an effect on the human clan. The demon clan can only come within 100,000 feet of it, while the human clan can come within 1,000 feet of it. It is rumored that a human clan member could come within 1,000 feet of it, and he didn't die. That human clan member said that he saw a small cauldron beside the corpse, which had 9 divine dragons carved on it. It was definitely an extraordinary divine artifact, but no one could approach it. A small cauldron with 9 divine dragons? Su Yu's heart thumped, and he couldn't help but think of the divine 9-dragon cauldron. Could it be that there was more than one divine 9-dragon cauldron in this world? Who was that almighty human? All of a sudden, Su Yu's chest shook. It was the divine 9-dragon cauldron. It seemed like it had heard the Luo Yun continent master's words, and it was reacting. This wasn't the first time that the divine 9-dragon cauldron had reacted on its own, but it was the first time that it had reacted to someone else's words. Was it really related to the divine 9-dragon cauldron? He was excited. The divine 9-dragon cauldron had always been a mystery that he couldn't solve. Now, perhaps he could finally find a clue. But he was still very rational, and he said, "That corpse has existed in the demon realm for such a long time, it doesn't make sense that you're the only one who knows about it, right?" But he was still very rational, and he said, "That corpse has existed in the demon realm for such a long time, it doesn't make sense that you're the only one who knows about it, right?" The suspicion in Su Yu's eyes grew deeper. If that's the case, didn't the demon emperor of the demon realm have any designs on it? Of course they did, but even the 7th demon emperor, who had dominated for thousands of generations, couldn't get within 1,000 feet of the corpse. I even heard that he was almost turned into ashes because he tried to force his way in. Hearing this, Su Yu was even more shocked. Even the 7th demon emperor, who was at the pinnacle, couldn't get within 1,000 feet of it? What kind of divine being was that corpse? After pondering for a moment, Su Yu said, "That place can't be entered at any time, right?" The breath of the Luo Yun continent master began to weaken, and the scent of death became stronger. He nodded slightly. "Yes, that corpse is located in the first forbidden land of the demon realm, the ancient dream forbidden land. It is rumored that those who enter this forbidden land will often dream of scenes from ancient times. Many people are unable to extricate themselves from it and are forever immersed in the dream. In the end, their bodies rot and their souls perish within it. Only when the Wunyuan of the demon realm opens and releases a powerful demonic energy will one not dream of ancient times in the forbidden land. The duration is 1 year. If one does not leave the ancient dream forbidden land within a year, it is very likely that one will fall into an ancient dream and sink into oblivion." "What is the Wunyuan?" Su Yu asked. The Luoyun continent master said, "The Wunyuan is the first abyss opened in the demon realm. It contains an extremely powerful demonic energy. It is released once every 300 years to restore the increasingly thin demonic energy of the demon realm to its peak, ensuring the successful reproduction of the demon clan. Only at this moment can one safely enter the ancient dream forbidden land. Even the previous demon emperors only dare to enter at this moment." Su Yu nodded slightly. "Other than that, are there any other requirements to enter the ancient dream forbidden land?" "Yes," the Luoyun continent master said. "You need to carry a Wunyuan fragment with you in order to freely enter and exit the ancient dream forbidden land." Without waiting for Su Yu to ask, the Luoyun continent master said, "The Wunyuan fragment was personally salvaged from the Wunyuan by the first demon emperor of the first generation. They can form a very strange pattern, but other than that they have no other use. In the end, it was discovered that carrying this fragment could allow one to safely enter the ancient dream forbidden land at a certain time. The demon emperor then distributed the 100 fragments to the meritorious officials. Suyu did not speak and waited for him to continue. The ancestors of the Luoyun prefecture once obtained a fragment in the past. However, in recent years, no one has been willing to enter the ancient dream forbidden land, so no one has paid attention to this fragment. Unexpectedly, for some unknown reason, the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce has found out about the existence of the skeleton and wants to steal it. The Yuan fragment of the Luoyun continent has become a must-have item. If my guess is correct, the fragments of the other continents that hold the fragments have already been snatched away. This time, the remnants of the Tai Qian Empire, who were secretly supported by the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce, had made a comeback. Their appearance was too sudden and there was no way to guard against them. Presumably, they had all failed. Suyu pondered for a moment and said, "Elder, do you wish for me to go there?" His narration was too detailed, and it did not seem like he was telling it to him, but to Mao Susu. "Yes, and then bring my daughter along. Is that okay?" The Luoyun continent master said. Suyu frowned deeply. "If the ancient dream forbidden land is very dangerous, I suggest that you do not bring her along." The Luoyun continent master sighed. "But my daughter is the Yuan fragment. If you do not bring her along, you will encounter unexpected danger at any time in the ancient dream forbidden land." "She is a fragment." Suyu was surprised. The Luoyun continent master chuckled. "The descendants of the Luoyun prefecture have always been rough and wild. How could we give birth to a descendant with delicate features? That is because the Yuan fragment has been integrated into Mao Susu's bloodline, which has affected her appearance. So that was it. Once the Yuan fragment has been integrated into the bloodline, it can no longer be extracted. If you do not believe me, you can take a drop of Mao Susu's blood essence and try." Chapter 2100. Although he said that he was grateful, he was actually asking Suyu to bring Mao Susu to the place where the skeleton was. There must be something particularly beneficial to Cat Susu there. As for Suyu, he was just a bodyguard who was escorting them. He was just going there along the way. The Luoyun continent's lord did not deny it. He said, "There are only 100 Yuan fragments. It won't be easy for you to find a second one." Suyu pondered for a moment, then said, "All right, I can bring Mao Susu along to investigate, and I'll try my best to protect her." He believed that the Luoyun continent's master had no other choice. If he had a choice, he would not have placed his hopes on Suyu, who was only at the middle stage of the Four-Crown Martial Emperor realm. "Thank you." Luoyun continent's lord's voice started to weaken. In the end, he fixed his gaze on Mao Susu and revealed a loving expression. "Susu, father can only accompany you to this point in your life. From now on, you will have to rely on yourself." Mao Susu hugged Luoyun continent's lord tightly and cried, "No, no. I won't be naughty anymore, I won't make trouble anymore. Father, please don't leave." He recalled how he had run away from home several times, how he had angered his father so many times that he had lost his appetite, how he had committed so many mistakes, and how his father had tried so hard to remedy them. As for her, she had never seriously thought about her father's silent sacrifice. Thinking of this, he was overwhelmed with grief. The Luoyun continent's lord gently stroked her head and said, "Heaven and earth are boundless, and all living beings will return to dust one day. It's just a matter of time. Cough cough. I think I'm just a reincarnation in this life. As your father, I'm a puppet of fate. Becoming your father is fate, and leaving your life is also fate." Mao Susu hugged him tightly and kept shaking her head. "I don't want such a fate. I don't want." Suyu's heart was moved, and he raised his head to look at the boundless sea. "Why do people die? Who made the rule that living beings must die? Was it the great Tao of heaven and earth? While he was lost in his thoughts, the Luo Yun continent's lord had already reached the end of his life. He raised his finger and pointed at Mao Susu's forehead. "Susu, live on." A blood-red light instantly entered Mao Susu's forehead from his fingertip. Mao Susu immediately closed her eyes and fell unconscious. He looked at Su Yu weakly and said, "A parting of life and death. Please don't let Mao Susu experience it. Human. Treat my daughter well." Before he died, he took out an identity medallion with great difficulty. It was the medallion of the Luoyun continent's lord. With this medallion, he could pass through the spatial barrier at will. With that, the Luoyun continent's master's aura dissipated, and his soul turned completely gray. Su Yu sighed silently, then grabbed the badge and buried the Luoyun continent master's skeleton on the spot. "Senior, have a safe journey." He picked up Cat Susu and flew into the air. The sudden appearance of his aura immediately drew the attention of two half-step Dowlords, and they were both surprised and delighted. "Let's see where you can run this time." Su Yu calmly looked at them and said, "Those who are unjust are doomed to destruction. The Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce, sooner or later, you will be abandoned by everyone." With that, it spread its huge wings and soared into the sky. When he collided with the spatial barrier, the Continent Lord medallion in his bosom became boiling hot, causing the spatial barrier in front of him to melt. In a flash, Su Yu crossed the space barrier. On the other hand, the two half-step Dowlords behind him had no choice but to utilize their laws and spend some time to forcefully break through the barrier. As for Su Yu, he ignored all the space barriers in front of him and sped toward the Seven Knights' divine capital. It didn't take long for him to shake off the two half-step Dowlords. Several years later, after a long journey, Su Yu and Cat Susu crossed the entire Demon Realm and finally arrived at the Demon Realm's Holy Land, the Seven Knights' divine capital. Cat Susu had slowly extricated herself from the grief of losing her loved ones, but the mischievous look on her face was no longer there. Instead, it was filled with vicissitudes and maturity. "Brother Su, I have a friend in the divine capital who should be able to help you meet the Demon Prince." Along the way, Cat Susu already knew that Su Yu had come to the Demon Realm to meet the Demon Emperor. Su Yu said, "I'm sorry, I have to be delayed midway before I can go to the ancient dream Forbidden Lands." Cat Susu shook her head in understanding. "No, my father is forcing you. Brother Su, please finish your own business first." As she spoke, Cat Susu took out a communication jade pendant and said, "Nyonyo, I'm here in the divine capital." Before long, an urgent response came from the jade pendant. "The little bad cat is here in the divine capital? I'm so scared, what should I do?" Cat Susu snorted. "Are you coming to see me? Alright, I'll come. The little bad cat is here in the divine capital, how can I not come?" The other party's voice was filled with surprise. "That's more like it," Cat Susu said as she put down the jade pendant. Only now did Cat Susu show a hint of her playfulness. "You really have a lot of friends," Su Yu exclaimed. Cat Susu had friends far away in the Seven Knights' divine capital, and they were quite close. Cat Susu blushed. "I used to be a playmate who did all sorts of evil things. Don't be surprised when you see me later." The two of them entered the Seven Knights' divine capital. Just as the rumors said, there was an extremely powerful spell in the divine capital. Only those with a pass could enter safely. Cat Susu calmly entered. When it was Su Yu's turn, he crossed the city gate with the pass in his hand. However, as soon as he entered, the spell in the city gate sounded an alarm. The soldiers guarding the city gate swept their sharp gazes over. "A first-level wanted criminal has appeared, arrest him immediately." The leader of the soldiers was a man in golden armor. His cultivation level was rather high, at the peak of the 5-crown martial emperor. He looked at the purple light flashing from the spell and decisively ordered the arrest. Su Yu was stunned. He had not killed a single person since he came to the demon realm. Since when had he become a wanted criminal? Could it be that the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce was behind this? How could he forget that several half-path masters from the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce were hunting him? Seeing the golden-armored soldier walk over, Su Yu instinctively wanted to strike. Cat Susu was shocked. She turned her head and saw that Su Yu was about to strike. She was even more shocked. She hurriedly said, "Brother Su, don't act rashly." Su Yu hesitated for a moment but did not strike. Cat Susu heaved a sigh of relief. The city gate of the Seven Knights' divine capital was an important location in the imperial city. There was a powerful spell hidden there. The control of the spell was in the hands of the god guards. Once it was activated, anyone who was not a path master would be turned into ashes. If Su Yu dared to resist, he would be executed immediately. The golden-armored soldier walked over, nodding his head to signal a few soldiers to put shackles on Su Yu. The shackles contained a strange demonic energy that could seal all the energy in a living being's body, rendering it unable to resist. Of course, for Su Yu, who possessed the soul path fragment, his soul could not be sealed. As long as he wanted to, he could still launch a soul attack at close range. The golden-armored soldier took out a thin crystal. The surface of the crystal rolled for a while, and information about countless different living beings appeared. Finally, the information suddenly stopped rolling and stopped at one of the lines. There was a clear image on the crystal, and there was a detailed description near the image. Species: human. Abilities: unknown. Level of danger: Level 1. Criminal record: killed 3 continent masters, persecuted, toyed with, and killed more than 30 women, robbed and killed more than 100 passers-by, and killed more than 3,000 soldiers. Wanted Level 1. Chapter 2101. The person in the portrait looked exactly the same as him. The only difference was that Su Yu had silver hair, while the other person had purple hair. Purple-haired Su Yu? Su Yu suddenly remembered that Yun Qianshuang had once said that she and her niece had been chased by a purple-haired Su Yu. Could it be him? "Take him away and put him in prison to await trial," the golden-armored soldier said casually. There were too many criminals who were caught like this every day, and Su Yu was just one of them. So, he wasn't a big deal. Mao Susu was anxious. She did not believe that Su Yu was such an evil person. Moreover, those criminal records had all been committed recently near Luoyang. But Su Yu had been traveling with her recently. How could he have come all the way here to commit crimes? That purple-haired Su Yu was definitely not the silver-haired Su Yu she knew. She was anxious and immediately followed the soldiers. She watched as they escorted him to the prison, then hurried back to the rendezvous point with her friend. In front of a restaurant, with the restaurant as the center, the 3 streets nearby were temporarily controlled by golden-armored soldiers. No one was allowed to go near the restaurant. In front of the restaurant, a short young girl was adorned with expensive jewelry. She had a pair of dragon horns on her head, and she was charmingly naive. She paced back and forth with her hands behind her back, muttering, "Why isn't the little bad cat here yet? Hey, I'm here." Suddenly, she heard a shout from afar. She looked up and immediately ran over with a smile. She sized him up and said, "Little bad cat, what happened to you?" Mao Susu's face darkened. For the past 3 years, because of her father's death, she had been too distraught and had indeed become much thinner. "Nyonyo, I want to ask you for a favor," Mao Susu said immediately. This was not the time to reminisce. The young girl patted her chest and said, "Say it. There is nothing in Luoyang that I, Nyonyo, cannot do." She seemed to be exceptionally confident in herself. Mao Susu's eyes were filled with anxiety as she said, "My friend came to Luoyang with me, but he was arrested as soon as he entered the city." The young girl asked curiously, "Why?" "Luoyang is not a small place, and they never arrest people randomly. Did your friend commit a crime?" Mao Susu shook her head confidently. "Absolutely not. He must have recognized the wrong person. Hurry and come with me to save him." She was burning with anxiety. The entire demon world paled at the mention of the divine capital's prison. None of the criminals who went in had ever returned in one piece. Losing an arm or a leg was still manageable, but some of them lost their memories, and some even lost their lives. Regardless of the severity of the crime, entering the Divine Capital's prison was equivalent to losing half of one's life. The young girl looked at Mao Susu and hesitated. After a while, she said, "Okay, let's go take a look first." Under the protection of a group of golden-armored soldiers, two petite and adorable girls arrived at the Avicii prison in the godly capital. As soon as the girl appeared, many experts guarding the Avicii prison saluted in panic. "Greetings, Princess by Xian." This girl was the famous Princess by Xian of the Demon Realm. In his entire life, the Demon Emperor only had one royal daughter and no other children. As the only imperial daughter, Princess by Xian had an extremely high status and was well known throughout the Yao world. Any demon would want to marry this princess and become the prince consort of the demon world. Once the demon king fell, the prince consort would have the chance to ascend the throne and become the new demon king. "Take me to see a silver-haired human criminal who has just been caught." Princess by Xian changed her playful demeanor and became extremely dignified. "Yes." With the princess leading the way, Mao Susu soon saw Suyu, who was about to be tortured, in the depths of the dark prison, which reeked of blood. "Brother Su, I'm here to save you," Mao Susu said. Suyu was slightly curious. What kind of person had Mao Susu found to be able to enter and leave the heavily guarded prison so easily? He was sizing up Princess by Xian, and the princess was sizing her up as well. There was a hint of dissatisfaction on her face. "Susu, you didn't tell me that your friend is a man." Mao Susu knew that Princess by Xian didn't like her to have too much contact with men, so she said, "It's not what you think. We are just ordinary friends." However, Princess by Xian's eyes were full of disbelief and suspicion. After a moment of silence, Princess by Xian smiled delicately. "Hee, I'm just kidding. Do you think I don't know what kind of person Susu is?" Suyu had a panoramic view of her expression. This woman's character was very similar to Mao Susu's. However, Suyu could keenly sense that this woman's playfulness and vivacity were 80% deliberate pretense. She was very profound in nature, which was completely different from Mao Susu's craftiness. "Show me his record." Princess by Xian waved her hand, and immediately, a strong man presented the record of him with both hands in awe. After reading it, Princess by Xian frowned. "The crime he committed seems very serious." Mao Susu hurriedly said, "Nyo, believe me, they definitely caught the wrong person. We have been on our way to Luoyang for the past 3 years. How could he appear in Luoyang and commit such crimes?" Hearing this, Princess by Xian fell into a short period of thought. After a moment, she giggled. "I don't trust people, but do you think I don't trust you? Since you say it's not him, then it's not him." Only then did Mao Susu let out a long sigh of relief. She was very glad that she had made such a friend. "However, although I am a princess, I can't release a suspect without permission. I can only let the magic guards conduct a thorough investigation. If he is innocent, he will be released soon." Mao Susu nodded vigorously. She knew Princess by Xian's difficulties, so she didn't ask for too much. Princess by Xian ordered, "Find out the true identity of this person immediately. If you have caught the wrong person, bring him to the palace to see me." "Yes. Susu, let's go to the palace and wait." Mao Susu nodded and cast a comforting look at Suyu. She said, "Brother Su, don't worry, everything will be fine soon." Suyu nodded and stared at Princess by Xian's back without saying a word. They left the prison and each boarded a beast carriage. After entering the carriage, the mischievous look on Princess by Xian's face faded little by little. She held her chin with one hand, and her eyes showed a deep look. After a while she said, "Pass my secret order. Whether that person is really guilty or not, throw him into the royal hunting ground." "Yes, Princess." A faint response came from the carriage. Princess by Xian leaned on the soft pillow, and her eyes were cold. Not everyone is qualified to touch the Wenyuan fragment. Somewhere in Luoyang, in a restaurant, a man in a bamboo hat was sipping wine leisurely. Under his wide bamboo hat, a few strands of long purple hair could be seen. Oh, isn't this trick of waiting for the rabbit to come? He raised his head slightly, revealing his true face. It was Su Yu. To be exact, it was the purple-haired Su Yu. He came to the demon realm first and deliberately committed many serious crimes. His purpose was to use the power of the demon realm to help him capture Su Yu. The effect was very good. Su Yu was indeed captured. Chapter 2102. Su Yu, how does it feel to be schemed against? The purple-haired Su Yu laughed ferociously. It was as if he had been schemed against by Su Yu before. In the dungeon, the three magic guards were examining Su Yu carefully and patiently. It's unfair. Why can he be re-examined? Why can't we? Hee, it's because we don't have a friend who knows Princess Pixin. The criminals in the prison were all clamoring, filled with jealousy and unwillingness. A moment later, the leading god guard, who was also the god guard who had personally escorted Su Yu here, said with a smile, "Congratulations, the result of our investigation is that we didn't capture the wrong person." All of a sudden, the prison was in an uproar. Ha ha ha, no matter how powerful the princess is, she can't be more powerful than the laws of the demon realm. It seems that having a friend who is a princess is not very useful. Those who deserve to die still have to die. The golden-armored soldier looked at Su Yu with a hint of mockery in his eyes. Are you disappointed? Su Yu must have experienced a huge drop from hope to disappointment. Unexpectedly, Su Yu's expression was calm, and he said indifferently, "You are preparing to send me to the Imperial hunting ground, right?" The golden-armored soldier's face suddenly froze as he stared at Su Yu in disbelief. He had indeed received such an order, but how did Su Yu know it in advance? Su Yu, of course, had read Princess Pixin's mind and predicted it in advance. It was really God's will. He had hunted many prey in the hunting ground, but in the blink of an eye, he had become one of the prey. A trace of deep coldness flashed in the depths of his eyes. Su Yu didn't care about how Princess Pixin treated him, but he couldn't forgive her for her viciousness towards Mao Susu. From her heart, Su Yu could vaguely detect that Princess Pixin was planning something extremely vicious. Take him to the royal hunting ground immediately. No delay. The golden-armored soldier scolded. He realized that something was wrong. The other two golden-armored soldiers immediately took Su Yu out of the prison. The golden-armored soldier stepped forward and looked at Su Yu. Then, he raised his hand and grabbed the Buddha bead space on his wrist. There were many important things for Su Yu in it. However, Su Yu was shackled and couldn't resist. At this moment, the little Kylan rushed out of the 9-jade spiritual bead and snatched away the space of the Buddha bead. It also snatched the 9-jade spiritual bead. The golden-armored soldier was caught off guard. The peak power of a 5-crown emperor suddenly struck towards the little Qilin. The little Kylan immediately turned into an incorporeal form, but because it wanted to snatch the 9-jade spiritual pearl, it was a step too late. Its hind leg was struck, and its entire leg was instantly broken. The little Qilin let out a muffled groan and spat out a mouthful of Qilin blood. Seizing this opportunity, the golden-armored soldier stomped on his back. Little Kylan. Su Yu's eyes were filled with murderous intent, and 2 beams of dazzling light shot out from his eyes, which instantly pierced toward the golden-armored soldier in front of him. Hiss, however, the other party only felt a slight pain in his head before he glared at Zhang Xian furiously. Because of that short pause, the little Qilin turned into an illusory form and fled, disappearing without a trace. Not even its aura could be caught. You're courting death. The golden-armored soldier raised his hand and ruthlessly slapped his face. But when the whip was in midair, he forcefully endured it. The princess's instruction was to throw Su Yu into the imperial hunting ground, but she didn't say anything about punishing him. The princess had always been a man of her word, and she didn't like people who didn't know what to do. If he really hit Su Yu, he might violate the princess's taboo. The imperial hunting ground is different from other places. Let's see how many days you can survive. The golden-armored soldier snorted lightly. Take him away. Under their watch, Su Yu was taken to the depths of the palace, to a self-contained independent space. The space was filled with criminals from all over the realm of demons. The number of criminals here was almost the sum of all the hunting grounds. In other places, criminals who could become beast kings were just relatively top-notch existences here. The real beast kings were the 3 half-path masters. The strength of the criminals here was so high that other hunting grounds couldn't even hope to match it. Similarly, the hunters who came here to hunt were never ordinary hunters. Only Princess Pishin, the demon prince, and the many magic guards were qualified to enter this place to hunt. The 3 golden-armored soldiers escorted Su Yu to a villa in the cavern world. The villa was full of extremely powerful seals, and even the half-path masters couldn't do anything about it. In front of the villa, a carefree young man said lightly, "Li Quan, are you trying to lower the difficulty of the hunting ground by sending us some good-looking but useless prey all day long?" Li Quan bowed respectfully and said, "Reporting to the demon prince, this is Princess Pishin's order." The carefree young man in front of him turned out to be a demon prince. The current demon emperor had only one son, and that was Princess Pishin. However, the demon emperor had adopted 9 sons in a row, and they were called demon princes. The person in front of him was the person in charge of the imperial hunting ground, Prince Juyao. After learning that Princess Pishin had appointed him, Prince Juyao's face changed slightly. He looked at Su Yu again and said solemnly, "Okay, remove the restraints and let him into the hunting ground." As he spoke, Prince Juyao took a collar and handed it to Li Quan. Li Quan took it and sneered. He put it around Su Yu's neck and said mockingly, "The nightmare has begun, prey." This person was the prey that Princess Pishin had appointed. He would probably become the priority target of all the hunters. The collar in front of him was a special item of the imperial family, and it could show Su Yu's location at any time. What awaited Su Yu next was a long nightmare. After removing the shackles, Li Quan said coldly, "Use all your strength and start running. If you are 1 step slower, you will die." Su Yu stared at him deeply and memorized his name and appearance. Then, he leaped into the air and fled into the depths of the forest. Having had the experience of hunting prey, Su Yu knew very well how dangerous it was to stay in the same place for even a second when his position was completely exposed and he was a hot prey. As soon as he left, all the hunters present took out a compass involuntarily. There was a golden spot of light flashing rapidly on the compass. Appointed prey? The hunters couldn't help but be delighted. Occasionally, there would be 1 or 2 prey appointed by Princess Pishin. If they could kill it, they would be able to meet the princess and ask for credit. Princess Pishin had always rewarded her meritorious subjects with generous rewards. The most common reward was a heavenly demon blood pill. It was a sacred item of the demon clan royal family. After it was crushed, it could release infinite power. If one could seize the opportunity, it wouldn't be difficult to break through to the level of a 5-crown emperor. At the same time, one could obtain the title of Hunter King. With this title, one could directly enter the magic army without having to go through layers of selection and elimination. So far, Princess Pishin had appointed 9 prey, and every one of them had obtained the above rewards without exception. After 20 years, Princess Pishin had suddenly appointed another prey, which immediately caused a sensation in the entire royal hunting ground. "I'm so lucky to have encountered a prey appointed by her." Somewhere in the hunting ground, a peak 5-crown emperor, whose aura was close to that of a half-Dao lord, said excitedly, "Hee hee, it seems like I'm going to get the title of Hunter King again." All the hunters in the royal hunting ground moved upon hearing the news. Except for a few hunters who were at the critical moment of killing their targets, the rest of the hunters all moved out and flew toward where Suyu was. Suyu fled into the depths of the forest, his mind racing. His space storage device and the 9-jade spiritual pearl were temporarily in the custody of the little Kylan, so it would take a long time for her to get here. Now that he had nothing, once his desolate power was exhausted, without any replenishment, he would be in a desperate situation. Swoosh! The hunter closest to him cried out in surprise and rushed over. He immediately attacked Suyu. His cultivation was at the middle stage of the 5-crown emperor, which wasn't very high. In the past, Suyu would have been able to deal with him easily, but now, he didn't even have a suitable magical treasure. 6 path rules. Suyu's eyes shone brightly, and without any hesitation, he used all of his rules. He had no other choice, as even a slight delay could result in him being surrounded by the other hunters. If that happened, he would be in grave danger. His top priority now was to end the battle quickly. His opponent had just swept over with his rules, and before he could understand what was going on with the 6 colored rules behind Suyu, his own rules were swept away and destroyed. Poof! The 6 colored rules penetrated his chest, and with a violent vibration of the rules, his chest was shattered on the spot. A terrified soul flew out from the top of his head and fled into the distance. Suyu didn't say a word, and a crack opened up between his brows, revealing a rotating vortex. In just an instant, his opponent's soul was devoured. The impure energy in his soul dissipated, and the pure soul energy was absorbed by Suyu, becoming a part of his own soul. His soul had grown tremendously, close to the middle stage of the 5-crown emperor. After finishing off the one in front of him, Suyu immediately took away everything on his body. He barely found a usable ancient sword, probably an ordinary true emperor-level divine weapon, with average power. But at least he had a weapon to use, which was better than nothing. The rest were miscellaneous talismans, elixirs, and the like. They were of relatively low levels and had almost no value. Just as he was about to plunder an ancient sword, another hunter flew over, his eyes full of anxiety, fearing that someone else would beat him to it. Suyu's eyes were cold and 6 path rules swept out, destroying his opponent's body and taking away his soul. As a result, his soul skyrocketed again, and he was only a step away from reaching the middle stage of the 5-crown emperor. On this hunter's body, Suyu found 2 usable swords, as well as an offensive talisman of the middle stage of the 5-crown emperor. After killing 2 hunters in a row, Suyu flew west. From the memories of the 2 hunters, he learned that in the deepest part of the cavern world lived 3 beast kings. Each of them had the strength of a half-stepped Dowlord, and many of them were no less powerful than the peak of the 5-crown emperor. Ordinary hunters didn't dare to approach that place casually, so there were very few hunters. If he went there, it should be much safer. While escaping, Suyu opened the heavenly eyes, and with his huge eyes, he overlooked everything around him, predicting the arrival of the enemy in advance.